What an amazing day to do Hotline League episode 173. We did not make it out of the Rumble stage in North America. We're going to talk about that. Everybody will have this moment to, we can all talk about our feelings on this show. That's part of the reason this show exists. We can all open up. I'm joined right now by my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Good.
Yeah? You hanging in there? Do you need to talk about your feelings, buddy?
I feel great.
Yeah?
I am so excited to repeat the same talking points I've been saying for 5 years.
You told me that you wanted this to be a drinking stream, so I'm just a little worried for you.
Apparently, I asked for it to be a drinking stream, but I'm the only one who's drinking right now.
Well, I'm drinking Game Fuel, by the way, our sponsor. Thank you to Game Fuel for sponsoring the show. Thank you to Alienware for sponsoring the show. We're going to talk more about them later. Mark has some sort of alcoholic beverage, which, importantly, is not a category covered by the Game Fuel sponsorship, so I think we're safe. Okay. Joining us for just the start of the show, maybe if there's 30 minutes or so, is Emily Rand. How's it going, Emily?
I'm doing very well, actually.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm glad to hear that because you and I have an announcement we'll be making in just a second. But let's build some more audience first. I don't know if we've given Mark the freeze frame that he wants yet to tweet about the show, but maybe.
Oh, I just forgot to do it.
No, it's
I'm
okay.
Drunk.
It's okay. We've got a scam train going anyway. Emily, what's been going on with you? How have you been feeling about MSI? I don't know if you have. Actually, let's put it this way. Emily, have you been doing anything that is not MSI or MSI related content coverage right now?
I'm working on some stuff for the beginning of the LCS split that I'm actually really excited about because I feel like, and you guys have talked about this on the show before, but one of the things that we could do a better job on broadcast doing is building better player narratives. And I feel like that was my strength when I wrote a lot more like long form features. So I hope that I can bring that to this summer and at least talk some more about players as people rather than like, here's where they fit in a list or whatever, So because you know how much I hate any sort of ranking or predictions.
Chad is very excited about that. I will say when I said this, I was trying to decide if you were doing anything non-League of Legends related. If you started a new book, you'd seen a movie, you'd gone on a trip, you enjoyed a restaurant, you cooked or took up a new hobby.
I do not have a life, actually. Well, I've been drawing more. So for anyone who doesn't know, I was a double major in college. So one of them was journalism and the other was fine arts. And I'm an oil painter. There's actually a half-finished oil painting I painted for like one of my closest friends back there. And he's a BMX racer, or he used to be a professional BMX racer. But yeah, like I've been drawing a little bit more, I guess, is like the only thing. Like I was doing some random figure drawing kind of stuff. I don't know if you can even see that because it's like all kinds of drawing. But yeah, so I have been doing that actually.
There we go. Really, that's something. I'm glad. Sometimes I feel like I need to check in on you and make sure that you are doing something other than waking up and like looking at jungle pathing charts or something.
I watch a lot of League of Legends. Yes.
Yeah. Mark, how about you? Anything non-League of Legends related?
Here's something Emily will appreciate. I finally got a Funimation subscription, and I started watching Wonder Egg Priority, and it's
nice.
Good. It's really, really good.
I'm so good.
I'm like 7 episodes in, I think, something around that.
Yeah, I definitely approve. That show is definitely the best thing I've seen this year thus far.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting Madoka Magica vibes. I know the ending's gonna fucking hurt.
Okay, anyway, no spoilers even for anime that I'll never
Travis
watch.
already checked out of this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that there'd be, I don't know.
No, I mean, I was getting up at 6 a.m. and going into hot tubs to cover League of Legends. So, obviously.
Yeah, well, okay, so by the way, Mark and I have been doing that. We've been doing our hot tub streams. He missed today because the dive was scheduled on top of it. We had Raz come in. Thank you, Raz. Shout out to Raz for allowing us to do 5 days of it. And Avali actually hung out a lot on the stream today, which is great. She's been loaning us her home to do this, and so The hot tub streams have been fun. I'm a little sunburnt actually on my arms. It's kind of red. I don't know if that shows up on the stream, but I don't know. Mark, did you get any sunburn at all?
I got like a light one, but it's more like a tan. Like that's more how I tan. It's a light burn. So it's pretty good.
LS is in the chat. He says sub with Twitch Prime. Shout out to LS. Appreciate. We stole one of LS's topics for a hot tub stream topic, which maybe we can talk about more.
I think we should also keep the hot tub thing going now that we have it, and in the future just keep adding people. Like next time Worlds is in NA, we should do a hot tub stream with just literally every single person on broadcast who wants to show up.
Yeah. Well, might require a pool instead of a hot tub, but I appreciate the sentiment.
You can fit them in there.
Nobody ever asked me, but I have been playing Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which came out, and that's been very cool. So shout out. I think I have to now legally say that I got my copy for free, but there, I've done it. I've met the FTC requirements. But I love Mass Effect, and I grew up playing it, and well, not grew up. I played it in college, and it's still, I think, one of the greatest stories told in a video game. So I'm a big fan. Somebody says, "Who asked?"
Green,
Travis?
red, blue. The greatest story ever told.
Okay, no spoilers.
That doesn't spoil anything.
We've talked. Okay, whatever. This is something for the book channel, which will be revived soon. Anyway, thank you to the Scam Train and everybody who's contributing to it. Somebody just Zem-el-kai gifted a sub to LS, which is very cool. All right. So part of the reason Emily's on, we're gonna have a revenge on later on in the show. He's gonna come on for the second half of the show. Part of the reason Emily's on, the major reason why Emily's on, is because her and I have been secretly working on a project for many months, and it just apparently when you work with big companies, it can take a bit to get things off the ground. But it is something we're going to be doing together weekly, because we used to work together at Yahoo, and this is cool for good opportunity for us to come be partners on a project again. Emily, why don't you do the honors and tell people what it is that we're going to do?
This is so much pressure. Okay, so we have partnered with Spotify to do a weekly League of Legends podcast that is between 30 and 35 minutes, which is going to be the challenge for me personally, because if you know me at all or any of my content, I don't shut up, and I like to write a lot of words. So it's going to be a really big challenge, but the challenge for Travis is going to be that I am going to force him to talk about regions that are not North America.
That's true. I'm going to lean heavily on Emily. She's going to be forcing me to. I'm going to have to learn what's going on with LEC and all this stuff. I'm putting out my tweet now about it because wait, you should do the same, Emily. We've got some cool.
I'm
some
so
cool
bad
art.
at this. This is what Travis is good at, actually.
I'm just a marketing machine. That's why.
Is being like, yeah. I didn't even think of this. He messaged me 5 minutes before we came on, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
So, I don't know. I think, honestly, when we're talking about the other regions, the podcast will be fun because it's going to be Emily educating me more on what's going on. I'm putting out tweets right now about what this is. One of the tweets that I'm putting out is that I wasn't sure about this. So, they approached us about this. At least for me, I think it was towards the end of last year. I think probably around the same time for you, Emily. And I was not sure about doing another League esports show because at first I thought there are a million League esports shows. Does the world need another League esports show? But I think one of the things that I am really excited about is Twitch and YouTube make it so that you actually want to do these long shows, these like hour plus, oftentimes 2 hours or more shows like Hotline League, which means that everybody has a very long show. I have a long show. We're talking about this on one of my long shows, or on the long show that I have. Mark is on the dive. Other creators have other stuff. One of the things I like about this, as Emily emphasized heavily, is we are not asking you to watch another 2 hour long show or listen to another 2 hour long League of Legends show. It's 30 minutes. Maybe if Emily goes on a rant about something, it's going to be a little longer.
Something big happens in the LPL, and I'm like, all right,
yeah.
I need to break this down.
But maybe it'll be 35. But we are pretty strong on committing to this being like, hey, every week you listen to this. Maybe you don't listen to LP, or maybe you don't normally get LEC coverage. maybe you don't normally get LPL coverage, whatever. Now you can just come in 30 minutes on your commute to work or something like that. You get the updates. So we actually recorded the very first episode today. Emily, do you want to talk about what it is that we talked about on the show, which I believe is
well, as
obvious?
You can guess, we talked about the mid-season invitational and Cloud9's demise. Obviously, we talked about all the other teams as well. I put in a huge plug for PSG Talon, my not new fave, but I wanted to highlight them because I think they have been playing really well and they have a very clear upward trajectory throughout this tournament. Unlike any other team here, I think we've seen the strengths and weaknesses we expected, but for PSG, we've seen kind of a steady improvement. So it's really cool. So I give a massive shout out to them, and then I have a nice rant at the end that I think people appreciate, or just think I'm an idiot. But
yeah. So the show called Rift Reaction. People were asking what's the theme. So it's called Rift Reaction in part because we are just we take essentially a couple of the major hot topics for each week. We talk about them really quick, then we move on to the next one, and I think it's good discussion, but it's also not just waxing philosophically. It is very much we've made show notes, which is something I haven't done in a long time because Hotline League just allows me and Mark to let you make the show notes, and so we've been doing that. We condense our thoughts into something and we throw it out there. I think it's pretty cool. I'm really happy with it. Emily and I work together again at Yahoo, and so this is kind of a fun thing for us to work together on. People are asking, when is it out? It will normally be out on Wednesdays. This week, because it's the very first episode and we wanted to make sure it's polished and all that stuff, it will be out on Thursday. But I hope that by Thursday morning, maybe even sooner, you can search Rift Reaction on Spotify. In fact, I guess I could check, but I think it's probably going to be up there tomorrow. And you can find it and you can follow it. The other thing which would really help me out, and by the way, I'm always asking for favors. And that's what I'm doing here. Emily doesn't need that because she's just very talented. But there's some polling and some Q&A components of the show that you can do through the Spotify app. That stuff is really helpful because it shows Spotify that there's good engagement on it, et cetera, et cetera. So we'd love it if we could do that. I think our first poll is about who's going to make it out of MSI. So whenever that pops up, you can go check it out. But either way, very excited about it. I think I'm allowed to say... Well, I think I'm allowed to say it's a year-long deal. So it's pretty cool. It joins Alienware and Game Fuel as the third major brand partner that TGI has. Meanwhile, Emily's over there on the LCS broadcast, so I need everything I can get. But pretty excited. So thanks everybody. Yeah, it's exclusively on Spotify because Spotify is making it happen. So thank you to Spotify for doing all this stuff. And I bet you Emily ends up plugging it on the LCS broadcast too, which is really cool.
Maybe, yeah. I'm so bad at this, I will have to be reminded. I am the worst person at plugging anything I'm involved in. But I will try.
It'll happen. Spotify will make sure that Riot makes sure that you do it.
Probably.
All right.
That sounds more accurate.
Yeah, we will tweet it out on the day. We're going to be promoting it. It's going to be good. But thanks everybody, and thanks for the support. It's really cool to be working on cool projects like this, and again, it's so nice to have a piece of content that I won't have to be doing with Mark every week. I think that's the biggest thing.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, Mark has the dive. I needed my second show too. Mark, are you here? Hello?
It was supposed to be the book channel, but then you bailed on it.
That can be our third thing. Book channel is still happening. All right.
Yeah. So what's the latest upload? Let me go check it real quick.
Should we talk? Should we talk about what has happened? Emily, you want to stick around for a little bit longer?
3 months ago.
Okay.
I can take a call. I'll talk about. I'm assuming most of the topics are C9 topics.
So
Mark is sighing, so I assume.
I mean,
that...
I have to take them.
Well,
right?
we get punished essentially. Mark and I get punished because when NA performs poorly. Because what happens is, Mark goes into the Discord and looks in the topic section, and there's 5 topics that are LCS should relocate to the Midwest or to Chicago.
Yeah.
And we go like, okay, we've talked about that. It's like players are overpaid and they're lazy. Okay, that's still not it. Like it is a lot of rehashing previously discussed topics. And so I think actually here's one thing that we can throw out there. Hunter today on Twitter, Hunter from Golden Guardians, he's head of esports for the Warriors.
I already pulled someone for that take too.
Yeah. So one thing, like here's something that is kind of interesting. He said NA has international tier talent, but it lacks the competitive crucible necessary to produce internationally competitive teams.
Good use of crucible.
Yeah, I've been using the word crucible.
I haven't heard it used like that since 10th grade chemistry class or something, when you're actually using a crucible to start some sort of chain reaction.
Okay, so he's got 4 tweets.
I used crucible was like more for like a forge. That was the last time I used the word crucible.
He's got 4 tweets here, and you guys interrupted me in the first one, and then I just looked over and in Twitch chat he says C9 should boot camp in Korea the whole split. So that's the summation of his 4 tweets, which is because of the fact that you can actually just get like the top 8 teams advance, and Hunter has been so nice enough to run a team that makes it so that we already know that C9 I don't have to worry about at least the 10th spot.
Wow.
Just kidding, Hunter. It's like how important is it after spring to do this? C9 has a relatively good academy team, which people think is pretty good, and could probably beat some of these bottom tier teams.
Oh, that's a good one too. So I'm talking about the G-Bay tweet, which is #1 on Reddit right now.
So there's that. G-Bay tweeted that he now roots against North America. He's become like in World of Warcraft and many of these fantasy settings, when you've been fighting the villains for so long, the corruption, at some point in time the battle just overwhelms you and you become corrupted and you become the villain, and then the new generation has to fight against you. That's what has happened to G-Bay. He's joined the enemy.
Also, well, that was about to be a huge spoiler.
Yeah, no spoiler. He.
I was about to.
Oh yeah. No spoilers.
Oh,
I know
even
exactly
you get that
what you were
one.
about to say.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Not for League or anything like that, but for something that anyway. So there's that going on. He had said originally, as someone who's watched NA's League for 10 years now, it's weird. I've started rooting against my own region at this point. I want NA to fail, if for nothing else than the embarrassment of team owners and all these ridiculous decisions they've made to cripple the local scene. That seems a little dramatic to me. I don't think that like the team owners have made a lot of decisions to cripple the local scene. I guess.
I mean, I feel like the reason why I personally wouldn't be able to root against North America like properly would be because I just feel bad for the players. Like, as someone who's talked to players for so long, like I would just feel bad.
Yeah. Obviously, we'll talk about things that are not C9 and NA related, and we'll take some calls. Maybe some people have some predictions on what's going to happen next. You know, how PSG is going to win everything or something. Is there anything else that really got announced this week? Obviously, my head's all in the MSI space, but I don't know if we're forgetting something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I feel like despite getting up at 6 a.m., there's so much less time in the day. Because every day I start at 6, but like I don't get free time until like 2, and then I go to bed at like 9 again. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. New GGS roster, new EG roster. If anybody has any takes on those, we can talk about that for sure. Emily, without spoiling our own show, Rift Reaction, available on Spotify. What has been your take on MSI this week?
I mean,
doesn't need to be about NA, just in general.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think. I think, like I said, kind of when I brought up PSG initially, I think that for 3 of the top 4 teams at MSI, so Damwon, Royal Never Give Up, and Mad Lions, I feel like we've seen within certain parameters, the teams that we kind of expected to see in terms of play style, in terms of what we expected their strengths and weaknesses to be, which is why I think PSG is so interesting to me, because this is a team that really didn't deal with being, in a deficit ever, right? And so when a team is that ahead of every other team in their region, and they're also making a substitution, not that Doggo isn't good, because obviously he's, who people think is either the best or the second best AD carry from the team that was the runner-up to PSG, right? So you have Unified and Kaiwang have played for so long that substitution, we didn't really know how that was going to affect the team either, because again, they've been in dual lane for a really, really long time, for anyone that doesn't know that. And I had no idea where to place this team going in, not because I didn't watch them, but because I was like, okay, I just don't know where you're at, because I don't know how to compare the strength of the PCS to everyone else if you just completely wipe the floor with almost every single team, right? So I think their trajectory has been really cool. I think whenever they load into the game, regardless of whether I like their draft or I like what they're doing, I think they have a very clear-cut idea of what they want to do, which is actually so important at international events. Like, I cannot understate how important that is when you talk to players at international events. It's always like, come up with your game plan and like stick to your style, and that's actually going to take you a lot further than making a lot of last minute changes due to what you think the meta is. And I think we've seen that from PSG as well. And like I said, they're the team that I feel like from their beginning to now has had just a very steady upward trajectory in terms of their synergy and their coordination, which makes sense because they're still integrating Doggo into their roster. And today we saw some interesting moves from him, but we also saw him pop off. So I was really happy because I've been waiting for that. Doggo's an incredibly aggressive AD carry, to good and bad ends. And I'm happy we got to see him pop off, because I was just waiting for that to happen too. So yeah, that's my like, I'm super happy about PSG, which has kind of been the biggest, I guess, surprise to me, because I had no idea where to really place them.
I appreciate that, because I do feel like PSG gets lost in the conversation about all these other teams that are from the major regions. And so it's nice that you're always down to champion them, which has always been, I think, one of your strengths, Emily, is the overlooked narratives in League esports. You're down to promote. Mark, oh, you're muted, Mark.
Fuck me. I was saying that I think PSG did a good job of inserting themselves into that conversation this year. I mean, they kind of got memed for it, but their whole like releasing who they think is going to be the best. They were really active on Reddit. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we are an English-speaking audience on Reddit in most of the things that we're looking at. So, of course, we don't talk about RNG the way LPL fans talk about RNG and all. Like, we don't talk about PSG the way, PCS fans talk about them. And so, like, but it's nice when they, help bridge that gap and bring over some of the stuff, and like their interaction on our side boosted the narratives for us to use a lot too, and to think about, like, is PSG better than Mad Lions or not? That was a huge thing, and a huge talking point through group stage and into Rumble stage because of their interaction. So I think PSG did a great job, not just in the actual event, but like the kind of circus around it.
Yeah, starting the conversation and keeping it going.
Yeah.
Well, should we take a call?
I guess
sure.
so.
We'll take one call and then I'll peace out so Revenge can be on, because Revenge is awesome. I interviewed him today as part of my pre-NA LCS stuff, and he is a great interview. He's like super well spoken and like very opinionated and introspective. I appreciate him a lot.
Yeah,
he learned it because he went to med school.
You learn introspection at med school.
You learn how to sound smart when you're delivering news to people.
Mark is off to grab our first caller. Any minute now, we'll be joined by them. Thank you to Clock Cruncher for the 10 gifted subs. Very, very generous. Really appreciate it. Pilgrim Panda, Blue Frost, It's Me, He, Prime, Jaffa awesome Cake, Luke of All Trades, Adak, Zem-el-kai with the gifted sub to ILS, Nuclei with 3, Karuz 44, OPTSM fan, Rise81, Paperman, Director Donut, and our first guest of the night is here. Oh boy, from somewhere in Canada, it's Bluejay. Where are you calling from, Bluejay?
Woo!
Someone appreciates me. Ontario, Canada.
Ontario, Canada. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I want to talk about Hunter Leigh. Is it Leigh or Leigh? Hunter's take is what I want to do.
think it's Liga. I think it's a hard G.
Sure.
Yeah,
German.
Liga. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Right.
regardless, Hunter's take of the LCS teams perma boot camping in Korea or wherever would have similar effects to the LCS removing import rules. Yes, it would improve the region, but it would ruin the LCS as a product, and the LCS as a league would just die.
Well, okay, so when we're talking about this, he's proposed, to my understanding, he's only suggested, actually, I think in his tweet he might have even said C9 and TL. But yes, he did suggest the top teams leave and go practice in these other regions and then come back and earn their world spot at the end of summer split.
I mean, I think if you send the top teams, it does the same thing as if you send all the teams. Like, you're just sending away all of the good players, and then now the LCS is just a worse product of what it already is. I feel like that would feel pretty bad.
Well, okay, I have a question for the three of you. Well, Bluejay, I don't know if did you feel like you need to expand? I think it's pretty obvious to your point.
No,
You're
that's
saying,
good.
Our most
I mean,
popular and
other
best
talking
teams are now
points?
suddenly not in the league.
Yeah, I have other talking points, but that's plenty to start for now.
Okay. So the question for the three of you is, one, do we actually think if TSM, TL, and C9 fucked off to Korea or Europe or someplace like that, just scrimmed a ton, and then showed up in North America for the first day of playoffs, that they would actually win world spots?
I don't know. Like, I'm not confident in the answer, which I think calls into question the whole thing. I mean, we have a little bit of data about people going to Korea for a little bit. That was CLG.
CLG.
I mean, twice, really, if you want to get into way back in Season 2. But the Season 4 one, they came back and they got shit stomped by us because they weren't exposed to Nidalee top. And, they just weren't playing against the meta. And they also kind of blew up, it sounds like, in their boot camp and stuff. I think in terms of raw skill and scrimmaging, you can talk about that. But goodbye social life, goodbye... a lot of the things that people are used to. You talk about culture shock when imports come here. You're going to have probably some culture shock.
In Twitch chat.
What's that?
People. I'm running the poll on Twitch chat, by the way, to see what people think, because I'm curious.
Oh.
Sorry, continue, Mark.
Yeah. So anyways, my point is there's a lot more to think about than just like, hey, you're getting better scrims. Okay, you're getting no stage time. You're not playing any important games. There's no pressure ever. You don't get to really test yourself against people in the highest level setting. There is a plethora of evidence to show that stage experience and regular game experience are not necessarily the same thing. Stage experience and scrim experience. So all those factors combined to make me pretty. I wouldn't say against the idea. I love experiments. I would love if they did it, but I wouldn't bet it. I would put no money on this bet. This is a bet.
Would
that
you
I
love
would
it?
just watch
Because
from
then you're just like, here's Cloud9 Academy, here's TL Academy, here's TSM Academy facing off against, I don't know, whoever.
I mean, I don't think the region would instantly implode if you did it once with one or two of the teams. If every single one of the top teams left, then that would probably fuck over viewership for that split. And it wouldn't go anywhere because it's not like you can go watch them in Korea.
Viewership is backsliding, so I don't know if we want to this could be the avalanche, but yeah, I don't know. Emily,
so I mean
go ahead, Mark.
No, you're good.
Emily, what do you think?
No, I was going to say, I have a lot of, I guess, questions as to how this would work. And so the first thing that I, really want to reiterate is I think scrims against better teams are highly valuable. But I think the issue with scrims is always that if you, in my opinion, and I'm not a coach, so you can totally call me out on this and say that I'm completely wrong, but I think that scrims are most valuable when you're learning something, not necessarily when you're, winning or losing. And they're a very different environment from playing competitively. Before every single international event, I always talk to players, and they're always like, this is going to be the bloodiest thing ever. It's going to be so high paced. Scrims have been all over the place. We have like 40 kills at like 20 minutes. And you know what? The only region I ever still see that happen ever is not at international events. It's in the LPL, or it's when two teams from the LPL face each other at an international event. So I think that's like one thing to highlight. One of Mark's primary points: a scrim environment is very different from a stage environment regardless. I've heard Chinese scrims are even wilder when it's like two LPL teams scrimming each other. So I want to get that out. I think that I personally would be all for this if there were the potential that we could have an international circuit. And we will never have an international circuit ever.
Yeah,
and that
that's
makes
a different
me sad.
Conversation.
Yeah, that is a different conversation to have. So I'm not going to get super into why. I think people know why. But I would be all for teams traveling to face better partners competitively if we had an open, an open circuit. The thing with franchising, which it was always kind of, I guess, weird to me that franchising was sold as a competitive decision to foster competition, because I feel like franchising generally, if you go all the way back to when I talked about this on League Weekly at Yahoo, and I researched franchising, it was first coming, I made the point that it's not for competition, right? It's for orgs to make money and for branding and stuff like that. And in that regard, I think you look over at a league like the LPL, which has been wildly successful with this, right? And so I feel like a lot of the conversation we're having right now over franchising is probably a lot to do with investors and what they think of the franchises thus far. But in terms of it being a competitive thing, this is a very long-winded explanation to say that viewership is not like exclusive to being competitive internationally, and that's just the case. If you look at a region like CBLOL, for example, everyone always loves to pop on the Brazilian social media train whenever they're at an international event, right? Because they are wildly popular.
Emily, can I cut in and ask you?
Go for it.
Do you think teams going to a different region would be more competitive if they just scrimmed a ton? Would they actually go to Worlds? They come back to NA. Are they good enough to go through playoffs and make it to Worlds?
I don't know, honestly, because I feel like scrims have to be in tandem with some sort of competition. You need some way to measure your growth in a competitive environment.
So that's what I said. That's what I said on the hotline or hot tub stream today, which was like,
oh, I didn't know that.
No. I'm just saying we agree, because it's like a quality check, all right? You're like checking it's like you're double checking your scrims. Are the scrims actually working? No, actually we're fucking losing every on stage game.
Well,
so the scrims that we're winning, which we think we're gods, turns out those are useless, or not useless, but like certainly not giving us the results we think we're going to get.
Well, and Invert brought up in Twitch chat, which I think is a good point. Is like, you're not even guaranteed to be scrimming the best teams in those regions. Like, if you send over 3 North American teams, they're not scrimming like, let's say, Damwon, SKT.
If you would send them to LEC,
yeah,
don't you think? I think they'd get G2 Mad Lions
for a little bit, not for a
easily.
whole split. Let's say you go there and they shit stomp you. They're not going to sign up for scrimming.
Well, so if they shit stomp you, but one of the nice things about scrimming these NA teams would be that you now have a partner that is not in your league, that you never have to face unless you go to Worlds.
That's true.
I do think it would be very like you could. I can imagine a world where G2 decides we're exclusively scrimming C9 from here on out. Like that shit used to happen a lot more, where people would just have scrim partners and exclusively scrim.
Not for a split.
Maybe not for a split.
You would be used on like the Friday before the games.
Yeah, to test out some sort of really
I think it'd be more
strategy.
than just the Friday before the games. Also, their games are on Friday, Mark.
I know they have games throughout the week, but my point is, I really don't think you would consistently get scrims against like the NA teams would be scrimming each other on Korean ping. That's what would probably be happening in the majority of their games. That and like lower tier Korean teams.
I think the last thing we need is to be embarrassed even more with sending over Cloud9 or TL to scrim to another region and them not even getting scrimmed because no one wants to scrim them, and then coming back to replace their academy
People would
roster
scrim
back
them.
in the LCS.
People would scrim them. I don't buy this idea that like we're getting scrims on a Friday evening. But
I actually think you're wrong about this. Like, what
I know we
incentive
disagree on this.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's an incentive to scrim a North American team if you want to test out a really specific strategy, right? Like, if you're, I forget what year it was, but the LNG Snake year where they decided to run the Rengar Ivern combination, and they're like, oh, we want to test this out against someone that we're not going to have to face. We want to test out our 4 Banner of Command strategy
our
against
Senna
someone.
Heimerdinger.
Yeah, like someone we don't want to face.
I agree with Wicked.
But yeah,
if you're good, they'll scrim you, and if you're not good, they won't. But like, you know, it's like a trial. This has happened before, where like at the start, teams have scrimmed the Korean teams. They played a couple games against them, and like they're not worth our time. That's happened at boot camps before.
I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, obviously there's a slider here where it's like maybe you do this for the first 4 or 5 weeks. I'm kind of the opinion that if you're C9, it probably makes like okay, especially in a non-COVID world, COVID makes it way harder. But I'm kind of the opinion that if you're C9, why not just go do this for at least 4 weeks at the summer split, at the start of summer split?
You mean before summer split or during?
During.
So give up your first 4 weeks of your season?
When you say give up, what do you mean give up, Bluejay?
I mean, if you're the only one that does it and everyone else is playing their main roster, and then you guys get smacked and then somehow miss playoffs, which would be really, that's still
I think
out there,
C9 Academy could beat half the teams in the LCS.
I think so too, but I'm not like so positive.
And,
you know,
and
like
again,
that would be the
you
ultimate
just
nightmare.
need top 8.
Yes,
It's top 8 and they carry over
that.
their record. So like,
Yeah,
I
no,
think
top 8,
to
you
be-
carry
to be
your record.
I do think Cloud9 Academy would make it, but like you never know, you know.
I mean, you can do the math and say like, all right, how many do you actually need to win in summer, and then you just plan it around that. It's not that many.
I'll also say that like a lot of the Cloud9 Academy players last year were so hyped to come to LCS and haven't performed all that well. So it's like that's maybe why I'm not so confident in Cloud9 Academy.
Actually, you know what it is? It's even better because not only are you sending your main roster to go into these other regions, but now your academy team is getting like sick experience.
killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
I guess you have to field. You would have to field another 5 players for your academy games, right?
They have an amateur team, don't they?
Yeah.
Everyone gets promoted.
I have another
I don't
thought.
know.
I have another thought as well. If this was likely to happen, maybe it's also there's potential that Cloud9 just sells their LCS spot and just goes to the LEC or
I
LCK.
don't.
If you're going to do that, like why not just buy a team in that region?
Because
Then
you
you're
make way more
perfectly
money
there.
in North America. It's
Yes, yeah, the sponsorship money. But I
Yeah.
mean, then you do solve the problem. Then you're getting scrims, I think.
I mean, then you buy Korean players and you're just a Korean org. What problem did we solve here? I'm
Yeah.
confused.
yeah. What is it, Mark?
You
Bold
solve it
points.
is you actually get to play real games. Like if we're talking about if you go to LEC, then you're not just playing scrims. That's the problem you're solving there.
Okay, here's
No, but
here's where I'm at. One, yes, I agree with Bluejay's original call. This would be really bad for the LCS. I do not think Riot. I think Riot. If I'm Riot, I'm Chris Greeley. Right now, I'm like, oh fuck, yeah, this could totally happen, and you figure out ways to make sure it doesn't happen. You hop on the call with Jack, and you go, Jack, did you see Hunter's tweet? What a crazy guy. You'd never do something like that, right? buddy, friend, and then while you're on that, you have somebody in the background, some sort of a, league ops person who's furiously writing a new rule that allows you to stop this from ever happening. And so but I think it's bad for the league. I don't think it's a crazy idea for C9. I think C9 could get scrims, especially for the first 4 weeks of summer. They're almost certainly going to Worlds. I don't know. They might be. I don't know. I need to go look at the numbers. But like, they've got a huge lead right now. You probably don't need to win that many. You've got a good academy team. I actually don't think it's that unreasonable, even though I don't think it's good for the league if something like this happens.
I pretty much agreed. Like I said, it's an experiment that I would love to run. Because maybe I'm wrong about some things. Maybe we're right about some things. And either way, we at least get to get some of those answers. So I agree. It probably would not be good for viewership. C9 games would go from like being really exciting to people not caring as much.
Would they? I think people would care less, but it also might be hilarious because you're like, imagine C9 Academy beats TSM. That Reddit thread's going to be number 1 on the subreddit that day.
That's true, but that's like more people reacting to it than they're like actually actively watching the game.
You're right.
That
the
might
VOD
be more
would
likely
get great
than
viewership.
Internet beating C9.
Yeah.
Like only 60,000 people watched this time, but all 60,000 of them went to Reddit afterwards.
Yeah. 60,000, but the VOD got great viewership, and the tweets popped off. Emily, what do you think? Do you think teams should do this? Well, then we can wrap up the call.
I think it's incredibly risky. Like Mark, I'm kind of curious to see how it would work, but I also think that it's really hard for me to accept that just scrimming, and even if you were able to get scrims with some of the top teams on the regular, that would be able to translate into coming back and doing well without some sort of competitive benchmark to use.
Well, I think what it's trying to solve is we say that our solo queue is bad because we've got low player base, the players in it are bad, the scrims are bad, or sorry, the ping is bad, and we don't have the best teams to compete against. So I agree that the competitive stuff is important, but if you're only doing it for like a month or 5 weeks, and you get good scrims, good solo queue, low ping, all these things you can't get in North America. I don't know, it's a tough one. Bluejay, sorry, I know we took your topic and kind of broadened it out, but
no,
I don't think
okay.
any of us would say that this is good for the league.
No, it's definitely not, and I love the conversation, so it's all good. That doesn't bother me. I'll do my shoutouts and take off. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Just shout out to your guys' hot tub stream. That was hilarious and it was pretty good. And shout out to your new Spotify thing. I'll be listening.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
All right. We're also going to say goodbye to Emily.
Yep.
Emily, thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me.
Rift Reaction, my new show with Emily. Emily's new show with me. She's really going to run the show there. And I'm
going to talk a lot, yeah.
Every Wednesday except for this Wednesday because, the first one's always kind of weird. Thursday this week, go tune in. And do me a favor and follow it and interact with the polls and Q and all that. I just want Spotify to know that people care, all right? And,
also, give us good things to react to, like if you have some sort of question or, you want to roast a team or whatever.
Right. And let us know what you think, too. Tweet us. Anyway, thanks, Emily. Thanks for coming on.
Yep.
We'll catch
Good luck to Revenge.
Yeah. Feel free to drop from the Skype call. Okay. And I'll move Emily into this other channel. She can disconnect. Okay, there we go. So Revenge will be on... What?
No, it's all right.
Okay. Revenge will be on in a second. I think now's a good time for me to do a sponsor plug while we wait for him to queue up. We're going to talk about Alienware. Alienware is awesome. So this week, Mark and I have been doing the hot tub stream. And one of the challenges we found was that because of the way the hot tub is built, it's very difficult for me to see like a laptop or anything like that. So we needed something lightweight that I could hold, that Alienware or that people on the Twitch chat could be terrified of. And the nice thing is that because Alienware supports us and they're part of Dell, we were able to use an XPS 13, which is this itty. You would not want to game on an XPS 13 unless you're doing like some casual gaming or something. It's a good computer, but it's not on Alienware. They were able to give us this XPS 13 so that I could hold it, terrify Twitch chat thinking I'm going to drop it, but this thing is lightweight, easy, and all that stuff. So I just want to give them a shout out to that to Alienware for allowing us to access the other awesome tools in the Dell family. But beyond that, be sure to stick around on their social media because they've already teased and kind of announced this X Series new notebook class that they're going to be coming out with. But on June 1st, they're going to be doing the full reveal. We can see all this stuff. They've already shown you the concept, the idea of what you're going to be seeing on June 1st, but you're going to get all the details on June 1st. So thank you so much to Alienware. It's going to be a really cool show that they do that day. You can check out their social for more information, but if you're in the market for a notebook, maybe take a look at their X Series and consider it as it's about to be announced. Okay. I am going to fix this overlay while Mark entertains us by telling us
Oh God.
how he's doing. How brutal has this schedule been for you?
It hasn't been too bad. It's been most brutal because I'm just not naturally a morning person.
Yeah, same.
I feel like I probably sleep between 6 and 8 hours on average anyways. But something about getting up at 6 a.m. I'm going to bed at like 10 or 11 now, but I just feel like shit all morning and all day.
I have such a hard time. I try to go to bed at 10 or 11, and I've done it a couple times, but sometimes it'll be 12:30. I'm just like, I put in the earbuds, try to listen to a podcast, and I just don't. It doesn't work.
Maybe you can't sleep because you have earbuds in.
No, that's not that. It's not that. I need something. My brain
Why don't
just
you play
keeps
it on
going.
a speaker?
My brain just keeps going. For instance, I'll just sit in the bed and I'll be thinking about the fact that it's been 2.5 months since Riot has refused to say anything about the import rule, and it'll stick in my mind.
God.
And I won't be able to fall asleep because I'll just be filled with like, my God, they won't say anything. I hope no one forgets that they're still not talking about this thing. We still haven't had a resolution.
I can't believe such a simple thought takes up so much of your mind.
There's not much
how much memory do you have running, chugging that little thought process along?
It's one
I'm
of those
up for hours.
It's like the Google Chrome of processes where you think it's not going to take much, and yet you open up Task Manager, and this process is literally consuming all the RAM in your
spiking,
computer. Yeah.
GPU spiking.
Right. Okay, so let's see if we can get Revenge going here.
Is that what you're supposed to be doing when I was making fun of you, talking about my
Well,
schedule?
I was waiting for him. Okay, here we go. He says he's ready. Nice. I was also updating the overlay, so I was doing stuff. We can't have dead air. So this is me just filling that dead air. Oh, I
can fill that dead air with my cat, but then it won't help podcasters very much.
I'm going to have to unmute. Let's see. Revenge, can you mute on Skype and then also join a Discord channel so I can pull you in? Okay. Looks like he's already muted on Skype, which is good. And then we're just looking for him on the Discord. This is why people tune in, so that they can get live. It's like they love to see the
I'm sorry. I'm sad that they didn't get the double.
There he is. Okay. Hello. Revenge. Can you hear us? I see you talking on Skype. I don't see you lighting up on Discord, so Discord for some reason not getting your audio. So that's something on your end. You got to figure out why Discord's stuff is not working. Mark is showing his creature. Is this the one that
Peter
you're trying
Dunn
to chase out of the house?
Yeah, this is the little rat that was tearing the magnets off my whiteboard. He's all tuckered out now.
Still don't hear you, Revenge.
He's not a cat, guys. He's a rat. Rats for Kobe.
Hopefully, yeah, if people are on listening to... Oh, hello.
Hello.
We can hear you now. Talk again. Oh, It cut out again. We had you for just a second. Maybe you're mute. There's a mute button maybe on those headphones. I wonder if there's a mute button that you kind of bumped at some point in time. He can't hear me.
He can transplant your heart, but he can't solve it. Oh, he's back.
Okay.
Hello.
Cool. I don't know what's going on, but
You're good. You're good.
I guess we're good now. Cool.
Welcome
cool.
to the show, Revenge.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay. Do you know how the show works? We take callers. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, I've watched I watched my coach do it.
Oh yeah, Guilhoto.
Oh, yeah.
Guilhoto, yeah, I watched him do it. That was pretty funny.
Nice. Okay. Cool. How much of Revenge? How much of MSI have you watched?
Quite a lot, honestly. I watch a lot of VOD. I mean, I don't watch it live, most of it, but I usually watch VODs because we've been scrimming, and most of the time the games are really early, so
Yeah.
I kind of have to wait.
How much of the C9
Adjust my
games have
schedule
you
for it.
watched? Because we're going to be getting a lot of those.
Most of them. Yeah, most of them. Pretty
Okay.
much all of them.
All right.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Mark, should we do a quick? You have any questions for Revenge? How you been? How's the off season? You're already doing scrims.
Yeah, we've been scrimming since like late April, so we started really early, and it's been going pretty good.
How's the new stuff going with Viper? And I mean, I know that they're on Academy, but I don't know if you're interacting with them at all, Viper and Anda.
Yeah, it's been nice. I mean, I've worked with Viper before, and he's a good friend of mine, so I'd say that it's been going well. We've been doing like internal scrims some days, and we've also been doing like, work together, like one-on-ones and stuff. So yeah, that's all been good.
Nice.
How often do you guys do Riven 1v1s?
I don't think we'll ever do that. I mean,
Okay.
we're both retired. We're just retired players.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to hang it up when you join the pro leagues. You got to.
Yeah, it's just like one of those things everyone has to be like, keep in the back of their heads, like when Riven's meta, we'll just,
Yeah.
it's there, but
Okay.
That's cool.
those days are behind us,
Well, Revenge, I hope you're ready. We're happy that you're here because you have not probably done as much content as Mark and I, and now you can help carry these conversations when people call in and say, LCS should move to Chicago, players are lazy, coaches suck, et cetera, this is what Mark and I have to deal with every time NA Busters out. So now you can be
gotta
the one
give these
answering
people
all these
hope.
questions. Yes.
Okay. Wait, so they want LCS to move to Chicago?
Yeah, well, it's a frequent thing. There's just people are out for blood on days like this.
They need to invest in NA players, but NA players are lazy and overpaid.
Yeah.
And you guys have bad ping, so you need to go move to a different part of the country, and then you also need to convince all your friends to play because the server doesn't have that many players. So
Right.
just do all that, and then
Yeah.
then you can win worlds.
Reddit is filled with a bunch of Robespierre wannabes. It's a historical reference for those that he was a influential figure in the French Revolution. Anyway, Mark, you want to go grab the first
Yes,
caller?
please.
Okay. It's me. I got them. Pilgrim Panda, Clock Cruncher, St. Louis Slayer, 24. Thank you for the 35 months. Hodarian, thank you for the Prime. And Sir Cattle, thank you for the 43 months. Wow, some people coming up on some pretty long times. Twitch chat just saying, just moved to Chicago. We've addressed this many, many times. It's tough to keep talking about it. Go back. You want to just always, you can get the answer to why they don't move to Chicago by just going and finding the last time North America embarrassed themselves on the international stage, which I guess is Worlds, and then looking at the Hotline League there. I'm sure we took a Chicago call. Okay. Donna is here. Donna, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Oxford, United Kingdom. It is quite late.
The United Kingdom. And are you here to... you've been on the show previously, right?
No, I have not, but you have mispronounced my username previously.
I don't think that's true. Anyway, so welcome to the show for the first time. Are you here to just laugh at us because you're from Europe and your region is still in an event that we are no longer in?
Not quite. I mean, I'm sweating too. Like, got a best of 5 this weekend, and it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I will agree with that, but I've just I feel like normally right now the EU fans are just enjoying dancing on our grave. All right, what do you want to talk about on the show? Oh, go ahead.
I liked it. Anyway, but yeah, my take is that of the 4 teams left at MSI, the inconsistency shown by Damwon and RNG and the still like rapidly evolving and uncertain meta sort of come together to mean that the tournament is basically anyone's to take. And I can either elaborate on this a bit more if you want, or I can leave it there. Like I have some actual like thoughts and vague data to back this up. If you want.
Fake data. Okay, well, I'm glad
favorite
you've come
kind.
to Hotline League prepared, because fake data is what everyone on the callers.
It's the only kind of data
deploys.
we use on this show.
I think one thing it'd be great to have you elaborate on is like the evolving meta, because it's funny. I asked Kaiser yesterday what he thought about the evolving meta or something similar to that. And he's like, I think the meta's been about the same since groups. So I don't know. What? Feel free to elaborate.
Okay, well, so I think, for example, specifically, I think the one that this has changed most in is jungle meta, where like the back and forth on whether Rumble is a good pick, for example, whether like if Rumble is a good pick, is it good in just certain drafts? Is it because people can't use it well? Like that sort of thing. Like for example, you see Elyoya piloting Rumble in 2 entirely different games. One game looks entirely useless. The other game looks like he could 1v9. And the PSG game looked useless. It was one of the games today where it looked like it could 1v9. And so things like that, and you have other teams who are like bringing back Volibear, and I think there's no like solid this pick is the go-to pick, because teams are so wildly shifting in what they prioritize and wildly shifting in what other teams prioritize that they feel able to counter, that like it makes a whole sort of it makes for a very uncertain play state, because you can't say, oh, they've locked in Volibear, this is going to be much worse because Rumble can just out jungle them. It's like oh, they've locked in Volibear, do they have a strategy prepared to pull this off, or are they just falling back on something and is it going to fall apart? I think that all 4 of the teams have shown fairly significant weaknesses at time to time. So, for example, like RNG, like won the LPL Spring Playoffs, but before that they got 3-0'd by FPX because FPX caught them off guard in a best of 5 and just utterly steamrolled them. And like Damwon Kia have shown weaknesses as well. I think with no losers bracket, single elimination best of 5. It is quite possible that a team could show up to a best of 5 with a jungle pick that no one sees coming, or, you know, just a slightly different read on level 1s or meta and completely upset.
Mark, I'm throwing it to you before we get to Revenge so he can warm up.
Okay. I agree with some of the stuff. Like, I think that there are still heavy favorites. But I do think that I talked about this a little bit on one of the hot tub streams about how like I don't feel like these are like insano ass teams the way that sometimes it feels like an international tournament has this 1 or 2 teams that are like god tier and everyone else is just beneath them and they're mere mortals and they're just gonna get crushed. I don't feel like RNG or Damwon are that right now. Like I don't think they're Samsung White. I don't think they're IG. I don't think they're FPX or some of these teams in the past that have been just insane. Though FPX did look mortal in group stage, I will say that. But I think in that sense, I agree with you. I don't think either Mad Lions is like peak G2 either, obviously. But it just feels like there's just more potential for upsets in these kinds of things. RNG dropped games to PSG, C9, and Mad Lions, whereas Damwon only lost to RNG in the Rumble stage. But they have been pushed before. I think they're one of the teams that's getting better as the tournament goes on. It feels like, but I at least think there's chances for Mad Lions to pop off in the early game if they start playing more like they played against RNG on the last day. So overall, I agree with your point that it does feel like there's more inconsistencies in the top teams, like legitimate inconsistencies too. Because sometimes top teams drop games and it's like, oh, they're just like Rocks Tigers is kind of fucking trolling here in 2016 or whatever in some of those games. I don't really feel like these losses are like, God, RNG just turbo trolled when they, lost that game to C9 or something, So on the meta point, I mean, there's like little shifts, Like I think people start playing Udyr a little bit more. I don't think any of the pro teams ever discounted Rumble. I think that was much more of a community conversation than a pro one. I think a lot of the pros were just always on board the Rumble train and stuff. But I think there are little rising and fallings of champion priorities within the meta.
Revenge. What do you think of all this?
Well, I definitely disagree with the point about like a random pick just spawning and like cheesing people or something. I think like something you have to take into mind is that these teams are scrimming quite a lot, probably like double blocking most days, especially the teams that are still in right now. So that means like behind the scenes an additional like 8 to 10 games, right, that we don't see. That also includes discussing the meta with other people, discussing the meta with current teams that are also scrimming now to prepare for like the upcoming LEC season, LCK season, LPL season, even the upcoming LCS season, right? And I think that with all this knowledge being spread, it's really unlikely that there's just going to become this like random pick that no one's prepared for. I think that that's easy maybe to think like that when you're thinking in like a best of one setting, but you just need to keep in mind scrims are like why these picks are happening. Like it's why Rumble Jungle is being played so much, like you can look at the stats and stuff, but of like the best of one games, right? But then you have to keep in mind that there's a reason these picks are being pulled out in a cutthroat best of one situation,
No, I mean, I think it's a good point. What are your do you have any rebuttals to that? Donna? Do I call you Donna?
You can, or you can take another stab at my username if you want.
Zem-el-kai.
Zem-el-kai, yes.
Yes. See, I've always gotten it right.
I think he added the spelling of the phonetics.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, I guess what I'd say to that is that I guess like with the scrimming point, that's something that I definitely like hadn't considered as much. But I think one of the reasons that I think it is that like, for example, in like as someone who watches primarily LEC because it's my time zone, like the LEC is something where we'll see a lot more like, and maybe this is partly a best one meta, but like you'll see picks that are like not necessarily like completely left field, but like they'll do things that haven't been like shown before. And especially like if I were say Mad Lions preparing for my game against Damwon Kia, I'd be a lot more likely to prepare my surprise picks in scrims against RNG and PSG than I would against Damwon. And I think like there is a legitimate chance that like I'm not saying that like a single thing is gonna win 3 games of best of 5, but like if a best of 5 is close enough, winning 1 game of a best of 5 can be enough.
Let me help you out here a little bit, because I think the most oppressive champions in the current meta to me feel like junglers, and I feel like jungle is a hard thing to do what you're talking about because it's so reliant on clear speeds and some of these things that like a cheese jungler is harder to kind of pull out versus a specific lane matchup, which can then just be like a really tunneled counterpick thing, like MF support into Zyra, which came out. Like that was very much like a what the fuck is this? Zyra's really oppressive in the bot lane. Here's some really niche counter that no one had ever really practiced. I don't know if there's anything like that, but I would ask Revenge. Lee Sin, for example, is one of the popular champions in the meta. Do you think there's like a really strong solo queue counter to Lee Sin that people have not brought on stage that you're maybe thinking that could be one of those things? Or is there nothing?
Is it secret tech that you don't want to talk about on this show because you're planning on busting it out in a couple of weeks if Lee Sin's still meta?
I mean, honestly, there might be those kind of picks, and they might be existing. It's just that the chances are that they've been picked in scrims, and that information is known across teams is really likely. So, if it is just something like super cheese, like if I just like picked Riven into Lee Sin or something, right, and did that in MSI, right, people would be like, whoa, But chances are the pick doesn't exist. It's just, or it's been like prepared for the most part. It's
Twitch chat all spamming Poppy.
Yeah. Poppy. I mean, but the thing is, like, most top laners would probably be prepared to play against Poppy. Like, it, it's not that like it wouldn't be surprising. You know, like there are surprise picks. It's just the value in which they hold as a counter pick isn't usually like that
So like, wow, this is
impressive
so
or like
oppressive.
game-winning.
Nobody could have thought about it, type thing.
You know, yeah. One thing that's happened recently that is kind of like that, it was like the Scion swap, for example. That like that has happened before in like the history of like LEC and LCS, but to pull it off in like a finals, right, was.
Mhm.
And I think there was an MSI game where it was done too, right?
Yeah, Pentanet tried it once.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely like those kind of strategies can be surprising and they can be like game changing. I just think picks for the most part aren't, just because of like how the fundamentals of the game are being played out anyways. Like you ask yourself questions about whether a champion has priority, whether it scales, how it fits into a team comp, and most players, especially at the MSI level, are able to like make a understanding of this champion that you've pulled out, whether it's in top lane, whether it's in support, like you said, and adapt in the game very quickly. So that's never really going to be game breaking, in my opinion, more than like a strategy such as a Scion.
Zem-el-kai, it seems like Revenge and Mark are perhaps not on your side on this one. Oh, Mark.
Well, I was gonna say that's more the meta point. I was gonna ask because Revenge didn't quite chime in on the competition being wide open. Do you think watching the games that like Damwon and RNG are headed for the finals, sure thing, or do you think it's more open than that?
I definitely think it's more open. I mean, there's no joke that these teams on any day can be really dominant over each other, or just like take a look at, for example, how Mad Lions played versus Pentanet and how Damwon played versus Pentanet. Both of them had near perfect games versus them when they wanted it, right? And that's just two top teams versus a weaker team, right? And when you look at that, I see that on any day, the consistencies in their level of performance and how high it can be is there, right? And then you look at the games where they actually verse each other, and there's a lot of very, very intricate things that they're doing against each other that just shows that they're both at a high level. And there's a lot of miscellaneous things such as like laying and matchups that on a good day, you know, Armut might gap Xiaohu, or on a good day, Xiaohu might gap Armut, and that can completely sway how things go, translating into like mid game, late game. And I think that already Mad, Damwon and RNG, and I guess even PSG have shown that they are playing macro at a really advanced level. They're playing mid game at a really advanced level, and I think that it's just going to boil down to who's better that day in early game, and just the really small things that'll make like the bigger difference. So I think any team can take it, to be honest.
Well, I'm excited. I think it would be quite crazy if I mean we talk about these other three teams, but I feel like wouldn't it be wild if PSG wins MSI? Then that's when we really do need to start taking the calls of maybe NA shouldn't be placed given the level or the tier system that it is, if we've got PSG coming in and winning. All right, Zem-el-kai, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, my mic busted for a sec. Yeah. Shout out to Pentanet, True Underdog Story, and also I don't know, gay rights, Happy Pride Month. Call your local representatives about bills when people are being shits.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love that you figured this out very clearly. You're like, what can I shout out? And you came to this. That's good. Zem-el-kai, thank you for the call.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one. Get some sleep. Okay. It's 4 in the morning there. All right. Sir Cattle, thank you for the 43 months. Weather Mullet, thank you for the 3 months. And Guilhoto has subbed for 3 months and says, flame me, bro. So I don't know if he's looking. I don't know, Revenge, do you have a flame for Guilhoto?
I'll cook one up. It'll come.
Good. At some point in time on this, you can unleash it in the middle of the call.
It'll be unleashed. It has to be the right time, though.
Yes, I understand. All right. Oh, Steve is in the chat. He's like, he
Steve.
literally just put a "Hey guys" emote just to remind everybody that he's like, wouldn't it have been cool if Team Liquid went to MSI? Dairy Cat is here. Dairy, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Australia.
From Australia. Okay, we just have international callers tonight. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about, I guess it's partially inspired by, I think, G-Bay's Reddit
Oh
post
boy, here we
about
go. Yeah.
how he wasn't too hyped about, I think he said he was sort of rooting or happy about C9's failures because of how it's managed. And my take was that I think, the LCS is high expectations in contrast to how they've performed historically, are in large part because they've got high profile imports. And I think that if and while LCS probably won't do better without imports, I think that the audience's expectations would be more realistic, so there'll be less disappointment if they fail internationally, and also I think there'll be a lot more hype when they do succeed, and I think that would create a better viewership for the league and perhaps be better overall for the league.
So the suggestion is NA needs to end its reliance on imports because they give us the wrong expectations when we're like, yeah, we got perks, we're spending millions and millions of dollars, and then we just flop. And
I mean, if C9 failed to make it out of groups or rumble stage with a domestic import, I don't think there'll be all these memes like, oh, $6 million or $12 million exit or $12 million speed run or something like that. So, and also if they did if they did beat Damwon and they didn't, they did, if they did make it to semis with I think only 2 imports or 1 import, then I think fans would be a lot more hype about that, and that will probably also generate more domestic interest in the league as well.
And again, for those that missed it, so G-Bay, he did not make a Reddit thread, but there was a Reddit thread about his tweet where he said he's basically waiting or wanting NA to fail because he doesn't like the fact that there are so many imported players representing North America on these teams. All right. Go ahead.
Can I just say something about that? Or are we?
Yeah, go for it.
I think that post or his opinion is like completely distasteful. Like I don't really understand it, to be honest, because it seems like maybe we like skipped the fact that C9 was competing in NA and they were versing other NA teams. Like, it isn't that C9 just went to MSI because they paid the most money and had imports. Like, they beat Dignitas, who had 5 NA players, right? Like, they competed better domestically than everyone else, so they deserve to go. And whether or not they played good or bad at MSI is kind of, it's kind of hard to say that these other teams or other players may have deserved it, right? Like, because essentially it just feels weird to say that, like, NA has failed when they sent the best team from NA to MSI, right?
Well, I don't think that G-Bay's post is necessarily blaming or saying that they didn't deserve it based off of them winning. I think he's frustrated because he sees, I mean, again, we're interpreting this stuff. Apologies, G-Bay. But it seems like he's mostly frustrating that it's like, okay, you guys have decided to give up on North American talent and whole, and they want to change it so that you can grab as many players as you can from these other regions, and yet so it feels vindicating to him whenever that path does not succeed. Like, you can't just go buy a bunch of players from another region and put them on your team. I'm not saying that's my take, but I think that's my interpretation, not him suggesting that C9 doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean, I didn't actually mean to say that he said those words, but just, I guess, like, to me, it just feels weird to completely criticize, like, the orgs and NA, like, for example, because at the same time, like, C9 did compete in NA against teams like, take Dignitas, for example, who have 5 NA players, and they did significantly better than them. And it's just, I mean, I'm just trying to basically say that I think that C9's level at MSI and what they were, like, how they played at MSI shouldn't, like, completely, make an opinion on like the orgs and NA. Like it just seems weird to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I do
kinda
understand the point though. I do understand your point, and I could see the perspective of in that regard. But like, I just do want to say that, like, because some people do interpret it like this, right? Like that, oh, like C9 shit the bed at MSI, and like, NA, like maybe if we had like 5 NA players at MSI, we would have won or something. It's like some people do maybe interpret it like that and just dog on the imports, right? And it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people in general are just growing an anti-import sentiment, like regardless of some of the other factors. And I think there are a lot of people like you who have the opinion. It feels like your opinion is like they are representing NA because they came from NA for the last 4 or 5 months. They competed against the NA teams. Like it's not like they just like jacked a spot while playing in Korea or something. I will say, to the caller's point, I think it's an interesting perspective that I think does hold some credence, less about the G-Byte stuff in particular, but about how tons of your top teams being imports, you have higher expectations. Like, oh, Perks has accomplished all this. Core JJ has won worlds. These kinds of things. And then they come into this infrastructure and this ecosystem. We can get into the myriad of problems that we have, but they see those results. They want those results because they're attached to that name, even though they're now in this like worse situation.
They're feeding us hopium.
They're pumping us full of hopium, and then they're letting us down.
Yeah.
And I think to the caller's point, I think some people, the way that, and I'm not 100% convinced of this because there's another side to this argument, but I think the idea that like some fans would be happier to watch 5NA go and compete and lose if we're going to lose anyways, because then at least there's a little bit more, I think, regional pride behind it, the way that there's maybe some more regional pride behind Brazil or Osh or some of the other regions that are also disadvantaged, who have the regions have their own struggles, but when they do get those moments and they do succeed, it's like insane. So I can see that angle of it. The thing is, North America as a major region has this entire history, and I don't think just because we sent 5 NA pros that like the rest of the world wouldn't meme on us for losing. I think the reality is that would happen no matter what. But I can at least understand from a fan perspective that like you would be happier watching people that you feel like came up through the scene and like, we're here the whole time and weren't given $6 million to come play for us kind of thing. That like maybe there's more pride in it in that sense if it's those kinds of people.
Well, I also think it's harder. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last week. It's harder to meme on us in a world like I guess I should say it's easier to meme on us when we are doing this. We do crazy things like pay Perks $1 bajillion to come to our region, and I love having him here. But we do this stuff, and then we go lose. And so I think what often it looks like, and we talk a lot about, the ping and all that stuff, but it looks like we are the people that are basically trying to like pay to win. We're in the mobile game, the guy who is like he
was whaled out. We're whales.
We've whaled out, and we're getting beat by these people that are free to play players, and so then people just mock us.
I got all the
and
constellations unlocked on my Genshin Impact C9 team.
But yet I still can't beat this boss that this person who's been grinding the free to play stuff. So yeah. I think that's part of it, right? Is like it's I agree with the caller a little bit in the sense of, yeah, it is embarrassing. Like, we haven't talked about Perks yet, but like Perks, who I think was intended to be the star player, certainly the most. Actually, I mean, I don't even know if he's the most paid player since we've got, but was the most expensive contract if you include buyout, probably. Did not do particularly well at this event. And I think there is a bit of just like, it's a little embarrassing whenever that stuff happens. So I don't know. I
also have some examples which
sure.
I don't know, might help. But like, I guess historically, for example, I think I agree, Travis, that like if NA loses, EU is still going to go EU better than NA and all those memes. But I think Clutch Gaming, when was it 2018, 2019? Even though I don't think they won a single game in groups, but I still enjoyed watching them, and they made it through play-ins, out of play-ins, and and I was and they had real some. I still remember they had close games with Fnatic. I thought those were good games to watch. And I guess a more recent memory with the C9, for example. I think if Fudge had not performed and Perks had, I guess maybe Fudge's type of performance, I think that'll be less hype because it'll just be like, oh yeah, Perks. Wait, of course he performed. It's Perks. We paid him $11 million. How could he not perform? Whereas I think perhaps one of the saving graces of this MSI is that people are like, hey, look, Fudge is, I think you can say he's perhaps world class.
To your point,
and that's great because he came through the NA Academy. That's pretty hype, even with the loss.
Imagine if a month ago you told somebody, a caller on Hotline League was saying it would have been nice if Perks had had a Fudge level performance. That is an insane statement to be making. That is crazy. If you just told somebody that like a month ago, people would be like, "Oh, how would that be nice?" Pure. Surely Fudge was the liability at MSI this year. It's just it's actually wild. No, I think it's a good point. I don't. Okay, I did talk about this a little bit on the Hot Tub stream, but I'm gonna dabble just around the edges of this topic that I really want to do a longer video on, which is I think it's ready. So we have in North America optimized purely for competition and international success for all these different years. We've done it in terms of like players now do less content than they did previously. They stream less. We have spent tons of money on trying to optimize for international success. We buy out all these players. We swap more than half of our players year over year out of the league from last spring to this spring. We rotate them all like musical chairs across all of our different teams. This is all the detriment of narrative, broadcast, fandom, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's part of the reason why the viewership is down, for instance. We've optimized for international success. We don't find the international success. And so I think it's time to pull back a little bit on optimizing for international success, because I look at these other regions at MSI, and I don't think Brazil's like, oh man, our team didn't do well. Well, we're all going to turn off the stream and never going to watch the Brazil League again, and we're going to stop giving a shit about competitive League of Legends. I do not think that people watch NA League of Legends exclusively because they think that NA is going to suddenly do well at international events. So all these people that say, I'm going to stop watching now that Cloud9 didn't do well, I don't believe you. But I do think it is time for us to stop. Look, I don't want Perks and Alfari to go anywhere. I love these guys. Stay here. But I do think it's time to stop optimizing so much entirely, purely only on the premise that the only way for this league to be successful is for us to do well internationally.
Well, I mean, here's the problem. I think we're attempting to optimize for international success, but then we end up getting domestic success and then failing internationally, to be honest. Like, I don't think it seems like, we get these pickups like C9, you take C9 getting Perks, for example, and they expected international success, or sorry, they expected domestic success in a way, but then they also got him for expecting international success, right? And you have to look at and see why they're not succeeding internationally versus only succeeding domestically, because they did get first place domestically, right? So they did accomplish one of the expectations that they had.
No, it's true. But I don't think Jack is going out and spending all his money on Perks because he wants to win LCS.
Yeah.
I think he's doing it because that might be one reason, but I don't think he thinks lifting the LCS trophy is worth however many millions he spent. I think he thinks like making it to finals at Worlds is worth however much money he spent, and he thinks that Perks is going to get him there.
And I agree. I agree with that. I just think that they expect to win domestically. They expect it, but they also are hoping to win internationally with these pickups, and it's just not happening. Yeah. So they need to reevaluate why that's not happening. But the domestic success is there. And then you look at domestically why that success is there and not internationally. And I think that's what we also need to look into as well.
Wicked is in the chat and saying, how's NA optimizing for international success with 60 ping? I mean, it's part of it, right? There are we can bring these players over here, but we don't necessarily ever seem to make them better than they were previously. I mean, outside of like the Fudge situation, when we grab somebody like Perks, he didn't perform better than he did whenever he was on G2, and I think there's a lot of examples of that. And I don't think that our environment is doing a good job of making these players successful. So if Riot and Players Association, teams, and all that stuff can come together to figure out solutions to the ping stuff, come and find solutions to, I don't know, all the other giant list of things that people think is holding NA back at home, then sure, let's continue to invest in this talent. But like right now, I just don't know if it makes sense. Moving to Chicago, says Sauchi. Yeah, exactly. Move to Chicago. Anyway, I'm going to do a longer video about that stuff in the future, but I think it's time to optimize for a fun product. 80% of the year plus we're watching LCS games. We're not watching Worlds and MSI. So let's optimize for making a league that people want to keep watching week after week and have players on teams and legacies and all that stuff that people keep watching, because I don't think we're doing that right now.
I look forward to that video. What's that?
I don't need to keep going. I feel like you're going to cut me off.
No, I was going to say, to get back to the caller's point, some like Guilhoto and some people in the chat were saying that, like, people like Dig is not the most popular team, despite being 5NA and like the best 5NA performing team. I do think there's some truth to that. Like, the same way that people say, "Oh, I'm so sick of North America failing, I'm going to stop watching." I think there's also some of those people who just like, you're venting and it feels good to vent, that like I'm so sick of watching imports and I don't want to watch them. But then like if Sven and Perks made it out of the group and carried our ass to finals, I don't think anyone would be complaining. I think the success is really what it comes down to. And that's the same way with domestic viewership, is that the best teams get the best viewers and not the team with the best personalities necessarily, or the most domestic.
I mean, it's hard to say, because like the teams that get great viewership are the teams that have been most popular for almost the entire duration of the sport in North America, with the exception of Team Liquid popping up and CLG kind of falling down.
And 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves marketing is so good, though.
I mean, I would almost say 100 Thieves is an example of how you can make a team that is popular that isn't competitively successful.
For sure, but I think at least right now, from what we've seen, they're the exception rather than the rule. I mean, how many teams have been able to... Team Liquid wasn't really as popular, and Curse wasn't as popular until they actually started winning more. They were one of the more popular teams, but they also went to Worlds in Season 2 or whatever. They were like one of the OG orgs that had just more fans in general. So.
Yeah, but they also did a really good job of building like all these shows
real
out,
org,
making people care and all that stuff, right? Like they led the way when it came to content in a lot of ways. TSM fans will get angry at me for saying that, but like, I don't know. Dairy Cat, thank you for the call. Is there anything else you want to say before we take a quick break?
No. Thanks for the show. Shout out to Alienware as always, and Game Fuel, and yeah. Thanks, guys.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
By the way, I just want to say what I just said. That's not like an anti-import thing. I'm just talking about, we move the slider on everything. We do less content than we used to do. We do less streaming. We do more importing. We do more roster trades, and we swap players around a ton, and we do crazy player turnover and all this stuff. And that's the type of stuff that I think is not necessarily great for the league. I also don't think it's great whenever teams are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on imports. I think that financial situation is not great either. But I have no problem with cool players coming in from other regions. I think it's neat. I don't know if the import rules should be lifted. All right, we're going to talk about Game Fuel really quickly. Before we go on to our next caller, they're our second sponsor of the night. We're shouting out Game Fuel. Thank you, Game Fuel, for sponsoring the show. I am drinking this evening a Charged Cherry Burst, which astute viewers will know is my current favorite flavor. They did a really cool banner of me, which maybe I can try to show on the screen. There's a bunch of people that they sponsor, people that are far more well-known than I am. But I'm now in this art thing with all of them. and I probably don't deserve to be there based off my following compared to theirs, so it's very gracious of them. They also did a very, I don't know, Mark, can you see? Sorry, I'm gonna cover you up, Revenge. You're gonna disappear for a second. Can you see this image, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see me on it?
I see a version of you.
Do you think that is an accurate depiction of me? I think I think I have a better jawline than what this image has. I look a little flabby in this game field picture compared to what I am in real life. I feel like
and that beard looks really unruly in that image too. Compared to real
exactly.
life.
Not the nice clean. I think I don't know. I wish they could have been a little more flattering.
And that part is actually on the top side of your head as opposed to the middle part that
well,
you're
yeah,
rocking
the middle
now.
part. I don't fault them for that. That's a new change for me recently. So, by the way, if you guys want to go see this, I think a less generous version of myself than what I look like in real life. You can go check it out on the Gamefield Twitter if you're listening to the podcast, the audio only version. But anyway, thank you to Gamefield for being so nice and including me on that. I didn't know they were doing that, and then suddenly it popped up, and I'm next to a lot of very famous people. You can go to, I'm going to do !Gamefield in the chat so that people can find the link. But there's also a link in the video description of the YouTube channel for this YouTube video. You can go over there and also use code TRAVS at checkout to save 5% off on your order of Gamefield. And keep tweeting, please, when you do grab them, because that stuff is really helpful for them to know, especially when you do it for the first time. You're like, hey, this is my first time trying this, and I ordered it. Then they know that they just got a new customer and that their support of this show is vindicated. And I need my sponsors to feel vindicated in their sponsorship of me, because otherwise it's all going to come crashing down. All right? LCS viewership, not what it used to be. They need to feel like this is still... Anyway, thanks Gamefield for sponsoring the show. We can move on to our next caller. Cheeto, 18, thank you for the 4 months. Troll Fun gifted a sub to Free Buju, very generous of you. And Risen King, thank you for the 7 months. Zem-el-kai says, what do we do if we're in the UK? I mean, you can tweet at them and say, like, hey, just want to let you know I'd buy Mountain Dew Game Fuel if I could, but to support Travis, but I'm in the UK. And then at least they'd know that they're getting something from another region. Either way, I appreciate it. You don't have to do anything. Nobody needs to do anything, but it is helpful if they feel like they want to. Mark is grabbing the next caller, and he's here. FanBoy is here. FanBoy, where are you calling from?
I'm college in Philly, PA.
Philly, PA. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I had a question mostly for Revenge, kind of. Niles, there's a lot of comparisons between you and him because you're both NA rookies this year, kind of starting out. But you had some experience in academy before, and he was straight out of collegiate. I kind of just wanted to know what the general feeling was about players coming out of collegiate and how experienced they should be. Because I mean, Maryville's scrimming right now against a lot of academy teams. They beat one of the LCS academy teams the other day. So I just kind of want to see what you thought about the collegiate scene in general.
All the LCS affiliated teams lost yesterday in the qualifier, which I thought was people were memeing on it. Not a very big deal, but also very funny. Sorry, go ahead, Revenge.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think I don't really have that much experience with the collegiate scene. I don't know how good they are or how bad they are, really. I just know that they're definitely at a level lower than the academy level, at least I would say last year, just because I think that there's just far less talented players in the collegiate scene in terms of like just solo queue ranking, if you want to look at that, and just players who translate into playing into academy and playing into LCS. There's just not that many players who like sprout from collegiate. I think Niles and Iconic are like the only two that really stood out over like many years now. So I would say that the collegiate scene definitely does seem less developed and less just has less potential in terms of players who can actually like rise to the top. In terms of and I think you said you were asking about Niles and how I felt he was prepared from the collegiate scene. I mean, I don't think academy experience or like my academy experience lets me or gives me like the authority or like the knowledge to like speak on that much. I think that Niles was given a chance by Golden Guardians and obviously still has it. He's now playing in their academy team, and he deserved it. He showed it through scouting grounds as well, which is what Riot hosted as well for players from solo queue. So he definitely proved himself through that, as well as collegiate. So that's, probably the best way to look at his rise into LCS and now academy.
Yeah,
think,
and if I could, oh, sorry, I was just going to ask a follow-up. Just like, do you think the infrastructure is worth investing there, like for the collegiate scene? Because it's clearly not there right now, and we don't have that many good players. But should we be looking to get more players? Because I mean, we're kind of an outlier from like traditional sports. Like most people get a season or two in college before going to like professional leagues. Obviously, we don't need to do that here, but it is sort of the status quo if we're going that way.
If I'm being honest, I think that if you're entering the collegiate scene, it's part of it probably might be because you could not enter the academy scene as well. And I think that the way I see entering the academy scene is through mainly being scouted through solo queue and then potentially being given tryouts through there. And if you're not good enough to get a tryout and spot in an academy team or through scouting grounds, right, then maybe you want to just enter collegiate because you don't want to commit a career path into LCS and academy, right? Because collegiate also offers you a college degree, right, on the side. So there's like two ways to look at it, right? Like some people just go to college and then play in their league team, and I think that's the case for a lot of collegiate players more so than joining or getting into college and then
Having it be like a path.
Yeah, right. Like NBA players, for example, they go to colleges to play college basketball to get into the NBA. It's not really like that in the league scene. You don't join college, at least right now, to play on a league team in college to then be scouted to play in academy or LCS, right? It's just that happens through solo queue actually. So I think that maybe in the far future, if we have a bigger pool of players who are trying to play in academy, who want to like get this, I guess, recognition in collegiate by playing against academy and amateur teams, I think that would be pretty cool. But I think that we're not really there yet in terms of infrastructure to do that. And I don't know how much it's about infrastructure or just about player base right now for that.
Revenge. Go ahead, Mark.
Another way I would think about asking this question would be like, you had a split of academy before joining the LCS and starting. How much do you think that leveled you up, assuming that there is, I would agree, this gap between LCS and collegiate right now, given that he kind of got tossed right into the LCS level, like for you at least, did the first academy split give you a lot of, did it really level you up, or do you think like it actually, you would have been okay going in your first split kind of more fresh out of solo queue after you made the decision to go pro?
It definitely leveled me up in the sense that it gave me a better mentality to compete. I don't think that it leveled me up in regards to like my understanding of the game and my knowledge of the game. That actually came from my coaching once I joined my LCS team. And I think that coaching in academy has gotten better now, but I think that at least from my experience, it wasn't what helped me develop really. I think failing in academy helped me develop my mental, it helped me develop as a player and a teammate, and it helped give me a better sense of knowing how to compete. I think that collegiate can actually provide those things though. I think that the coaching aspect and being in the scene and understanding, like getting advice from like other LCS players that I was around and, other academy players as well even, I think that actually gave me an edge as well. And that's why I think that a split in academy was
Revenge,
pretty vital for me.
You praised your LCS coach, but he's in chat right now typing LOL in capital letters when you said that. So he seems to almost think it's a joke that you're making about him actually being a good help for you and you learning a lot. Is there anything that you would say? I don't know.
I mean, he's probably laughing at the fact that I said that he's probably just laughing because he's remembering how I was from the start of spring split to now. I think there's a pretty big difference, to be honest. Like,
what happened? What's the difference?
I'll tell you guys a story actually.
Sure.
Tell us a story.
I'll tell you guys a story of my first coaching experience with Guilhoto, because obviously I've never even met this guy yet, and we started scrims, and mucho texto. That's like actually, we'll get to that. I think it was like our first day of scrims that we were playing, and I was just not having a good day. At least like my first 3 games, I was really just, I was not having it. It was just a bad day, and I've never really been coached before. I guess this is when I really realized it. I've never been truly like hardcore coached, right? We get into a call, and he takes me out on the side, and he just starts flaming me, and I was just like, holy shit. Okay, I have to start playing good now. He called me he was just calling me out like for my just shit performance this day, and then I just started playing better. And part of the motivation was just like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get flamed. Like I have to play better, and like it was good. I really like, and then he even made up stats. Yeah, like he started going through the games like, you've died every single game before minute 5, like your CS numbers are this and this, and I was just like, I believed it because of how angry he was.
He just lied to you.
Yeah, I believed it because of how angry he was, and then honestly, I just started playing better, like just like that. That coaching method really helped me out, and I thought it was pretty funny, to be honest. But like a coaching style like that is pretty unique, I guess, but yeah, it's helpful.
I get why they don't include that in the team documentaries, but I wish they did, because like that's the stuff that's really interesting. So like, I think I see Peter from Evil Geniuses in the chat. I'm guessing he doesn't do that. It's hard for like, I feel like Peter would come in with like this very logical like, all right, so I think that you're struggling a bit, and we really need to figure this out. And here's what I've been thinking about, and this is one of the things. I remember I worked at this time with this team and this was how we were able to work. And it's just like, it's very funny because I know that Guilhoto is like the completely opposite type of person. Maybe Peter does scream at his players. I don't know. But I wish that we could see all the different coaching strategies and the different types of coaches there are and how they're all handling stuff. But
actually, I like what Peter said here. My style is different from Guilhoto, but different styles for different players. Like the thing is, Guilhoto wouldn't coach every player on our team like he would with me. He just knows that like I can handle it, and he knows my limits in a way, and he knows how I can receive the coaching and if it will help me or not. So he doesn't just he doesn't just start blaming everyone if they play bad, right? It's kind of like our dynamic of like coach and player.
But he said that you said this was your very first day and you didn't know him and he didn't know you. So was he limit testing you this day? He's like, if he starts crying, I won't do this again.
He probably had the idea that I could handle it from just like my personality, so he started limit testing. It was like 3rd day. Okay, it was like maybe it was like the 1st or 2nd day. It was one of our first scrim days, but
I mean, either way, I think like that's what makes people good coaches is when they can kind of read the situation and know how you're gonna take this. Like if you were really nervous and scared and he just roasted your ass, like maybe it mental booms you for like the next week or something. But I think
he wants to join. He wants to join.
I mean, he was in Discord. I don't know if you're
if he's in one of the channels, we can pull him in so that he can tell his side of this.
While he's joining, Travis, and you can look at that.
Keep an eye out.
It reminds me. I watch a lot of I love watching like pro sports documentaries about coaching staffs and stuff. And they're talking about Bill Belichick, and they said like he would often start like the year of like review stuff by taking some bad game by Tom Brady from the year before and just roasting the fuck out of him because it sets the tone that like, listen, Tom Brady is like the greatest quarterback of all time and I'm going to shit on him. So like, and he's not going to complain. Tom Brady would never like talk back to Bill when he's like popping off like this. And so it just set the tone that like, listen, your coach at some point this season is going to rip you a new asshole, but you're just going to take it because that like, that's the culture around there. And so like, I think different coaches have different styles, and like just knowing how you can get the most out of people is like
Guilhoto's
half
here.
of what coaching actually is, more than the actual like X's and O's.
Guilhoto's here. Hello, Guilhoto.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
welcome under.
Shut up.
What?
I mean, Mo is literally like painting me as if like every time that Mo ints, I'll just yell at him. This is not the case. That situation was Mo and David were screaming with the other 3 players were the academy team, right? Because we had that whole situation that our LCS team wasn't here and stuff. And I was just watching, and Mo was legit losing, and this was like 3rd day. And Mo, like for that, like since the start, kind of, like Joey and Keith were low-key smurfing, and Mo was losing every game like on his own, kind of, you know. So I just pull out the belt and just gave him a little whip. It's not something that I will do. Like Mo is painting as if like I'll do this.
What? I said you don't
every
do this.
single
I said
time,
you
know.
don't.
I did it like this time, Mo. Like
Hey,
okay, no,
I said I was hinting. I said I was hinting.
Right? Tomorrow Viper plays with us. Like it's fine. Like it's you can just like, it's fine.
Hey. Okay, you know what? I did give you the benefit of the doubt. I said it's like our coach-player relationship, but that doesn't mean he always flames. It's like
no. I
when
mean,
I need it, you know, when I need
for
it.
example, in the case of Mo, just to explain. In the case of Mo, he's like someone that it happens here and there that he will just drop his levels of focus to details if he's not kept in check. So each like 2 weeks, if that drops a lot, I'll have to keep him in check. But that's it, you know. And it got way better. Like I don't remember the last time that I actually flamed you.
No,
Sometimes
actually,
I say
it's been
like
quite a
mucho
long time.
texto. The mucho
what's
texto
mucho
thing,
texto?
it's actually
Please explain what mucho texto is.
okay. So
Oh
Mo is
my
a streamer, right? And his communication, and I didn't understand if this was like his problem or just like NA problem, but he literally describes his game, right? So he says like so many useless shit. And he's in comms, and instead of just like communicating what he has to say, he's just like, oh, this guy just queued on me. Oh, he's going for this creep. I guess I'll just base here, but maybe I'll just okay, I'll just cancel my base. And like jungler is literally bot side, no one cares. Like just do whatever. Like, and then there was one time that I told him that I will describe this from now on as mucho texto, which means a lot of text. And and I remember one time we were literally on review, and I think Joey, that is in chat, he was even there, and I was making a point to Mo, and Mo starts like literally just straight up saying a bunch of shit that are not even related to the point. And Mo says literally one thing, and I just go, mucho texto, go next.
It's true. At the start, we've improved.
Yeah.
It's been a process.
No, we improved a lot on that.
I mean,
Now
you were
That's
remote,
mucho texto.
right? He was just narrating like you were a stream viewer, so you knew what was going on. In his
I mean,
communication
like
weren't
how
watching.
else could he know? He needed to feel part of the team. I felt like I was streaming to him. You know, he was just my
Yeah.
viewer. He even subs to my stream, so like he's also just a subscriber. Like
True.
it kind of need. I couldn't find like a separation between the two, to be honest.
You need a
Really
name
starts-
for your subscribers.
You start shouting out subs in the middle of a scrim.
Revenge is just, he knows he's an NA player, and he's like, my future's on the broadcast, all right? This is going to last for a couple years. I need to learn how to commentate and analyze, so I'll just do that live.
Alarm's looking too lonely on the broadcast. You know, he's looking way too lonely, so I have to.
But he does this like, okay, actually, Travis, like, so Riot did at the start. Riot did some kind of interviews, right? And I'm not even joking. They asked, I don't even remember the question. They asked something to Mo, and no joke, he told literally the story of his life.
They
They didn't ask you, tell us the story of your life. Like, it was literally 10 minutes after when he mentioned, yeah, and I almost got to med school. That was like literally 10 minutes after the question.
You know, it's like I was just sitting there. I think Andre was sitting behind me, and I just hear like at some point I'm like speaking, and I just hear, you know, like behind me, and I'm just like, what's going on back there? And I finished my interview, and he's just like, yeah, we're just never gonna go home, I guess. You know, Revenge just wants to tell his whole life story. But I'm pretty sure they asked. That's all I'm gonna say. You know, that's all I'm gonna say.
Well, anyway, thank you, Guilhoto, for coming on and clarifying. Hopefully, we
Alright,
gave
see
you
you
a
guys.
chance to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See
We'll
you,
catch
see
you
you.
next time.
We should do more coach player combos. This was
Yes.
very enjoyable to hear two different perspectives on a
Yes.
on a VOD review.
We do have still a caller here. FanBoy, I know you got
Yo,
way more than
that
you
was
bargained
awesome.
for with this. Hopefully, this was helpful to you.
Got to be with an LCS player and a coach in a Discord call. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, very good. Well, hey, I was gonna, unfortunately, I think we're way over time by this call, so we're gonna have to let you go. But is there anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
PG Esports, if you're a coach, some university will pay a lot of money to make their league team good. So go do that.
Very
Yes.
good. Thank you, fanboy. Have a good one. All right.
Are you going to make Guilhoto our victory caller of the night?
I don't.
Victory
I don't.
caller.
I assume that they might have a sponsor conflict. I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
He would be normally, but I don't know if I can be handing out product to people with a different sponsor. But if he does want Game Fuel, I can definitely get him some. All right.
He was complaining about it in Twitch chat earlier, actually.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah.
You
Should we go next caller?
If you want Game Fuel, Guilhoto. Yeah, that's good. Let's see. No new subs in 25 minutes. I don't know if anybody wants to sub, but you got a prime in the chat. You enjoyed what you just saw. Throw out the channel. All right, Mark is grabbing the next caller. Revenge. While we wait, one question. Oh wait, no, we're good. Jinn is here. Jinn, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Montreal, Canada.
Montreal. Is it cold or warm there yet?
It is warm. I don't
Okay.
know in Fahrenheit though what
That's okay.
the number is.
Yeah, honestly, half our audience is from outside the U.S. So if you say Celsius, then they would probably know.
Oh, okay, it's like 23.
There we go. Okay, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take was, as I wrote it, Blaber was elevated too highly by the community and should have been seen as the weak link of the roster going into international play. Blaber's domestic success was facilitated by the weaknesses of the region, which masks Blaber's own weaknesses when compared to international competition.
Whoa, this is a hot take. This is a hot take. Wait, okay, here's
So I
what
want
we're
to
gonna
open
do.
up.
Oh,
Okay, okay.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I want to open up by saying that Fudge actually has more international wins than Blaber does.
Yeah,
All right.
I guess.
Here's what we're gonna do. I'm preemptively making you the Game Field Victory Caller of the Night, just because this take is really wild, really bold, and interesting to come in, and you're coming in with fire. Okay, what do you? So is your just? I feel free to elaborate without it being a 5-minute monologue, but I assume you're just suggesting like Blaber succeeds because NA players are bad, so he can kind of run over them. But if he does the stuff that he does in North America and international, he gets exposed, which is potentially what happened here.
Well, Blaber is sort of a feast or famine kind of player, and like when he does poorly, a lot of the time it's because he's focused and or turned his brain off. So most of the time it's also when C9 has a weak top side. I feel like when C9 drafts or plays a strong top side, or at least their top is doing well, Blaber likewise has more control over the jungle. So like in all of their losses, it's mostly because either C9 drafts a weak top side or or the enemy top side was able to sort of gang up on Blaber when he ends on a crab or something.
So, again, just to recap, Jinn is suggesting that the MVP of the league is a liability for his team, and we should have known this going into MSI.
I mean, his last international appearance was in 2019 Worlds, where C9.
Yeah, it's been 2 years.
It has been 2 years, but that's also the only, data point we have for him, and he did not perform well.
Wasn't that the Worlds that G2 made it to finals? So if we're using data points from 2019 Worlds, we should be like, well, C9's making it to finals because Perks was able to do it then.
Sure, but
all right.
Perks also had a bad tournament as well. I'm saying that Blaber is proven to not perform well internationally.
Okay.
All right, well, I think this is probably one of the most shit takes I've heard.
Okay.
Oh God.
I mean, like, dude, no flame. It's just like, I mean, first off, the results you're using, like the stats about the Worlds wins or like international wins, is like really troll. Especially when you're counting the Worlds wins that Fudge is playing with Blaber. It's just so it just makes no sense, to be honest. And second, I think that I think you could look at this tournament and definitely agree that Blaber had bad games. Like a lot of players. I mean, You can even look at Xiaohu in the game today, where he literally was 0-5 Nara at one point. Like, I'm just saying, people do have shit games, and they do have bad games in, really high stake games as well. It happens. I think that to judge them as a player just because of a best of one game and just completely disregard his performances throughout all of NALCS and like the last couple of years is pretty stupid to me. I think that Blaber also had very good games at MSI that were kind of overlooked because of this dog shit narrative due to him flashing on Scuttlecrab in one game, which was completely stupid to me as well. It's why I also think that there's a danger in broadcast narratives when you look at players and highlighting negative things that they do. It's just a community thing, to be honest. Like, and I think that you're a victim of it right now by saying these things. To be completely honest with you, and I mean, yeah, it's a hot take, I guess. Coming in and saying, yeah, I respect that, but I also think that it's kind of a shit take too.
I think to your point about, I think sometimes what happens is you have a thing that happens early on, whether it be in a player's career or player's season or a player's tournament run, and that sort of defines a lot of the parts of it. So like Blaber was super struggling day like 1, 2, and maybe you could say even 3 a little bit. And I think that made a lot of people be like, oh, he's sucking. And then like he bounced back a little bit. Then he had some struggles in the Rumble stage again. But to your point, like he had a great Udyr game, he had a great Volibear game, and I know people always meme his Morgana binding, but he did have one game on Morgana that was pretty good if I remember. So to your point, he had a handful of good games too. I think it's one of the things I didn't like was when people started memeing like MVP, like his performance in NA is somehow tarnished here. And I mean, people have done that before too. The people like Double Lift and stuff about his performance internationally, and then being like, "This is the best marksman North America has, and you can't even do this or that." So I do think there's some truth to that. That said, the one thing I'll give the caller credit for, and it's mostly giving myself credit, was I said on the dive heading in to the group stage even that like Blaber was actually my biggest question mark about how he would perform because of some of that stuff about him being a really aggressive player and like sometimes getting in over his head and being able to outplay people that would be harder to do in North America. I actually said that he was my biggest question mark for the team over Fudge and some of the other people. So I'll take a little bit of credit for that, but otherwise I agree that I think people have gone way too far because like some of the mistakes that lost them games, like there was the really late like trying to get mid-control against, I forget who it was, but like he was standing in the brush and started hitting Leona and stuff. But there are also plenty of games where people, they played bad at other moments and it wasn't just him and stuff, so.
Mark, do you think Blaber was the biggest liability to his team this tournament?
It's a loaded question.
What do you think he was the weakest performer?
I would probably, I mean, when you're painting in such black and white, sure.
Because so this is, I mean, I'm just trying to create a conversation here, right? Because Revenge,
right.
Part of this is like, this is the first time you had a very strong reaction to this, whereas I have heard over and over from people, and again, I'm not an analyst, so I rely on a lot of other people to say this, that Blaber really just had a lot of issues this tournament, and you mention it as like to count it off of one best of one, but it's like there were a lot of best of ones that they played in, and it sounds like you're taking the stance that like he had a couple bad games, but actually was pretty okay this tournament. So I'm just trying to kind of narrow in on like if Mark thinks he was like the worst performer, and you're like, yeah, he doesn't deserve this. I don't know.
This is just, it's just hard. It's really hard to judge when it comes to the jungle role, especially unless you're just looking at like egregious misplays. And okay, you can look at the flat. Let's like even dissect the crab play, for example, really quick, right? The way I look at that play from like a laner perspective is, as a Jace, for example, I should have crashed the third wave on Gnar, and I should be in river with Nidalee fighting Udyr as he's touching the crab, because I know that Udyr is going to be on that crab right away, and he takes it faster than Nidalee. Now, mid prio was slightly even, both of them are moving, but as a top laner there, you can even look at some of the blame on Fudge, because he was slow pushing on fourth wave, and Gnar was contesting him with even CS, and I think that's not how the matchup's supposed to go, right? And as someone who's not advanced and doesn't understand the game, you're going to still look at Blaber's play, which was bad and risky because obviously it's bad because he died, but when you look at it from Blaber's perspective, he's about to lose that crab. Udyr's going to cross through mid, which has prio, and he's going to get the bottom crab. And then Udyr can take over the game from that. If Blaber's playing Udyr and he double crabs her, historically he's taken over many games like that. And it is, in this meta, very... It disrupts a lot of the game plan, especially in that matchup. So Blaber wanted to take that risk. I don't respect it. I think that he definitely shouldn't have done it given the situation. But if he just left there and got double crabbed and Udyr starts taking over the game, he's going to say, people are just going to look at it anyways and say, Blaber's getting jungle gapped, right? Like, that's why I don't like looking at these performances and of junglers especially and just shifting the blame onto one person for a team. There's just so many small things that are happening in the game that are affecting other players in a team that unless someone's just inting, getting solo killed, like down 30 CS as a laner, for example, every game, and it's like so egregiously bad that you can kind of just go, this guy's inting. It's like, it's so hard to say who like the worst performer is unless you're like really going to go through every single game and dissect every single thing and shift blame onto one person or not. None of us are doing that. So it's just a team thing. It's really not an individual thing to me this tournament.
And even to back you up on that point too, Sven in his interviews said after that game that there was miscommunication between Blaber and him about how top lane was going to go. And you can, like you said, adapt in the game about it. The funny thing was also you can adapt in the game, but like if you have a game plan and the game plan gets fucked up, you're then kind of just ad-libbing and being like, well, I got to get the most out of this somehow. Otherwise, like you said, going to fall behind. I think it was funny though that in that same interview, Sven didn't really pull any punches for his boy. And Sven was like, yeah, our jungler's underperforming.
Wait, was this the one that I did with Sven?
I think it's the one that you did, right?
Yeah, where he was like, yeah, jungle got, he said something like, yeah, jungle got caught again or something like that.
Yeah, we had jungle struggled again. I forget exactly his words, but it was
yes,
yeah,
the first interview I did was Sven. This tournament, I think the only one.
Yeah, it was I mean, you could tell the whole team was frustrated there though. So I never got too far.
I'm not trying to say Blaber played perfect, by the way. I'm just like, this is just to like put the water on some of the fire that's trying to basically build this narrative that Blaber's the worst player and Blaber is the sole reason they've lost all these games. Because the way I see the community overreact about these things is eventually this is what it leads to. And these kind of things mess with the player's confidence. They mess with the team's confidence in that player. And it sucks, to be honest. I've seen it happen in the past, and it's happening now with Blaber, and it's pretty insane, to be honest. But I think that I'm not even trying to say he's played perfectly, and I'm not even trying to say that he had a very good performance every game and that he did perform good this whole tournament. Like you just said, his own teammate even said it. He did underperform. Blaber's level of performance is obviously higher than some of the games we were seeing here at MSI. That's just fact. And he shouldn't want to look at his level in some of these games in MSI and say, yeah, guys, like, I'm Blaber. Like, this is how good I am, Obviously not, right? So it's just giving him the benefit of the doubt that he did just have bad games these games. This isn't just him as a player. Like, it's not his full potential, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And defining of him as a player.
Jinn, I know Revenge had some harsh words for your take. Despite being a game but go ahead.
I just want to say I don't think Blaber is a bad player. First of all, I think he's a very good player. I think he's also very good in NA, and NA just is not a region that is always capable of punishing him when he's very punishable as a player, being the sort of like super aggro at times, and that international junglers and teams from LPL and LCK can take advantage, and they did in some of the cases, and in a lot of the games, C9 lost as a team as opposed to like
It just
sometimes it was just
yeah.
an early game mishap that just ended the game before it really even started. But most of the time they did lose as a team. I'm just saying that despite Blaber being MVP, he is also a point of attack for C9, or a point to attack on C9, and that should have made things a little bit
yeah, like
raise some red flags a little bit.
His aggressiveness is punishable, and North America hasn't figured out the best way to punish it, is what you're suggesting.
Right.
Yes, you know, I can see that take and understand it. It's just when you, especially when it comes to early game and you look at these crab bites, these crab situations. What I was trying to do by explaining, you know, that crab situation that I just talked about earlier was by saying that this is an early game team plan thing. This isn't just a Blaber thing. Is what, like, yes, you can give Blaber the responsibility of, say, being the one who usually makes the early game team plans, and that yes, in NA that we're not, and not enough teams are punishing these early game team plans that C9 is making. It's just hard for us to know. Well, you can't actually just say that it's all Blaber as a part of these early game plans. Like I was saying, Fudge could have crashed the third wave, and he could have been the one in the river, right? Like it's a team plan, and the jungler is obviously, it's really glaring when it's a fight in the river or something. Is yeah, it's the jungler's fault, but it's the early game team plan that falls apart. And this aggression we talk about that we see that isn't punished because the plan of the team isn't setting up to punish it. It's not like the junglers are 1v1ing or something and like the enemy junglers are punishing this guy's aggression or something. It's like, no, they're punishing the plan that he was trying to make. And yeah, the plans are aggressive. That's good. That's praised, you know, as us in NA, we praise C9 for these aggressive early plans or whatever, right? But it's that the teams are matching the plans. They're figuring out how to actually beat their early game, is what I'm trying to say. It's not only, and that blame shouldn't only be put on Blaber. It should be put on the whole team of C9.
So it's not Blaber and his playstyle that's exploitable. It's Cloud9's playstyle that's exploitable because they're playing this aggressive way that other people can figure out.
To give an example from Immortal's own game against C9 this split, I remember it was a game where Xerxes invaded onto Blaber and stole his blue buff, and Revenge was playing Camille and had like, I think he had the push, and they stole the blue, but then on the way out, like Xerxes and Blaber just kind of fought, and Blaber just like outplayed him. It was mostly just like a mechanical outplay and stuff like that. And I think that's a play where like in NA we're like, fuck yeah, Blaber, you just beat him up, like good job. But then in international competition, like Canyon's not going to do that if he gets that blue buff. Kane's actually just going to keep control of the game usually. And so like I think those are the kinds of things that happens when you see this discrepancy between a player in NA versus internationally, is like the mistakes that people make. Not just the plans aren't as good, but like sometimes the mechanics they don't do the same thing. So like that would be an example where I'm like, okay, like internationally, if the Lilia stole that blue buff there, he probably kind of runs you over the rest of the game because you're Talia no blue buff, and like you're just gonna fall behind from there, and you're gonna get tripped. I think he's gonna get 3 buff that game too if that went through.
Yeah, and I think that those things do happen. I'm not even saying they don't. And I mean, it literally happened in our own game with my own jungler. So like, yeah, it sucks. It does happen, but I think in the majority of cases, that isn't the case in MSI. And yes, I agree with you that the level of play in MSI is really high. It's obviously the best teams from every region. So these mechanical mishaps should not happen on the stage, and they are less likely to, right? So I think that what we're seeing, or what we've been seeing, is more or less less of these mechanical mishaps. It's like, to me, it seems like a planning thing, and yeah.
Thank you, Jinn, for the call. DM me on Discord, and I'll get you hooked up for the Gamefield victory call tonight.
Sure. Thanks.
Is there anything you want to say before we say goodbye?
I want to quickly piggyback on the Hunter thing, and I think he gets it backwards. We should send amateur and academy teams to Korea and have them spend the split there instead of pro teams to future proof. that's just the quick thing. And then the second thing is I want to shout out Mark's former roommate Zell. He streams Final Fantasy 14 and anime content weekly. So if you like anime and Final Fantasy 14, go check him out. He also has a podcast, not League related.
What
So no.
his Zell spelled? Because people will know.
XELL.
There you go. There you go, Josh. Thanks, Jinn, for the call. And
He's live right now.
No, don't tell them. Don't tell them together. Okay. Oh, wait. You want to go grab him? Sorry. I almost announced the next caller. I'm all over the place. It's been a long day. It's actually been a long day. I went from watching the games in the beginning to doing an interview, only one, sadly, to doing a hot tub stream with Raz, to doing the Rift reaction show with Emily, which again will come out on Thursday, to now doing Hotline League. And tomorrow is my birthday, so I get to just rest tomorrow.
Nice.
It'll be good. Okay, Mark is back with our last caller of the night, JPWBT. Thanks for making me say each of these letters. Where are you calling from?
You can just call me Joe, but I'm calling from Seattle, Washington.
Joe, Seattle, Washington. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so my take was that C9's performance at MSI should be viewed as an overall positive step for NA in international competition. Because really for the first time, a team from NA consistently was competing with and taking games off the rest of the major regions.
Oh, so you're kind of doing the LS grabs thing of like, oh, this was a great performance.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I don't know what they said, but I just think if you look back at other top teams from NA, like looking at Worlds, like TSM in a tough group went 0-6, and just generally NA, although we are more consistent at beating minor regions, we just never look at competitive at all with the top regions.
When did you start watching League competitive?
About 4 years ago.
Okay. Did you watch the last MSI?
Yeah, so NA's definitely had like days where they do well, like take a series here and there, but over a consistent tournament, they just do not perform consistently. And so C9 over the course of 2 weeks performed against the top teams generally well.
So I was just laughing because Revenge is Hopium, NA is great Hopium.
In the Twitch chat, yeah.
What do you?
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just wondering, is that you're saying that this take is just some Hopium? It's just trying to pump us up, or do you agree with the caller at all, or?
Well, I don't agree with the caller saying this is like the best NA's done. I mean, that's just wrong. But I also don't agree with us really saying this is like a complete positive. Like, I'm sorry, but not being top 4 at MSI should never be viewed as a positive. I don't really care. Like, as a player who's really driven and competitive, I just don't ever think, like, if you went and asked Perks right now, Fudge, anyone on C9, are they really gonna say this was a success? Like, they shouldn't. You know, if you're a player who's competitively driven, you're never gonna say this is a success. Like, we're never gonna actually grow and improve as a region if we look at this result and say, NA, you know, like, look at the bright side, guys. Like, gold star, we got top 5 or whatever, right? Like, I'm sorry, we should just not do that.
Well,
we should be a little bit more harsh on ourselves.
It's
well,
not,
okay,
it's less
sure.
about the
Less
placing
about
and more
the
about the
results.
results, right?
Yes. I mean, okay, even looking at our level of play. I mean, I'm sorry, but we lost to Pentanet in a very critical game. Like, just look at that. Like, I'm sorry, no offense to Pentanet, but like, you look at their performances against Mad Lions and Damwon, some of these games, and they're being like rolled over in perfect games. Like, if we as a region want to be like viewed as like, you know, as good as EU, as good as Korea, as good as LPL, we can't lose critical games like that to Pentanet, for example. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. And NA as a whole and C9 shouldn't go look at this tournament and say this was a success. This was an absolute failure. And as harsh as it is, there's no buts, ifs, ands. Yes, they took some games off Damwon. They took a game off Damwon and RNG, and you know, that's great. It was the best of one though, you know. And I'm sorry, but I don't think that with their consistent level of performance, anyone would say that C9 would have taken a best of 3 on those teams. That's just the reality. And when I say that, that's looking at their performance across the entire tournament, right? And like, I'm sorry, but Damwon's not losing games to a lot of these teams. You know, neither is RNG. Like this is just the truth.
Revenge, worth pointing out though that you're saying like, yeah, we took a game off RNG, we took a game off Damwon, but they're best of ones. The Pentanet game was also best of one, and you're using that as an example.
True. But my point is you look at some of these best of ones against that Pentanet had against these other teams, and how hard they got rolled across all the teams. And that's my point for saying that. I mean, I do agree. Yeah, they lost the best of one to Pentanet, but the reason I'm using Pentanet as this example is because I feel like a lot of the other teams were literally taking turns rolling them. And not just beating them, they were rolling them. It was like hilarious to watch. It was like I was watching an LCS team scrim maybe an amateur team, and just like having fun, kind of. Like it wasn't cool. Like it was just like, this is MSI, you know? And I mean, like, no flame to them. I'm glad they I'm glad they beat C9, and I'm glad that they're like they made it to the the second round as an OS team that has had little infrastructure. Props to them. No flame to Pentanet. I love some of their players too. They're great guys. But it's just the reality is that we lost to them in a very high stake game. In a kind of sad fashion too. Like we got 4 Dragoned. They got 4 Infernals on us. Like, yes, it's a best of one, but like that can't happen if we want to look at this tournament as a success. You know. To me.
I'm largely in agreement with you. I mean, a lot of people talk about like even the first time that we beat them, it wasn't as dominant as, like you're saying, these other teams that absolutely rolled them. And then the second game we lost, and it was not like they coin flipped us somehow. Like both teams were playing pretty standard team comps front to back, and we just got out executed, which is pretty surprising. And I think it's extra surprising when you look at. I mean, I know we're talking about a lot of historical context too. Like, yes, we beat Korea's number 1 seed and China's number 1 seed, and that's something that doesn't always happen. But usually, like these other teams do okay against the wild card teams and the emerging region teams, and most of the time they're also better than Pentanet. To that point, once again, no flame to the Pentanet guys, but like Fengvu Buffalo in 2018 and Gigabyte Marines or maybe I'm getting these years wrong, but like those kinds of teams that were the other people competing were usually better, and we were usually pretty good about beating them. Like Team Liquid in that 2019 year, they got 2-0'd by IG, who I think at that time you could argue, as they went 9-1 in their group, was better than RNG. And SKT, who went 7-3 in the group, you can debate them versus Damwon if you want. But then we went 1-1 versus a very good G2, 1-1 versus Flash Wolves, and then we 2-0'd Fengvu Buffalo in that year. Like, that was really, really tough competition. That was a fucking stacked tournament from the major regions, I would argue. Those were really good teams. And Team Liquid went 4-6. Yeah, they couldn't upset them in the best of ones, but like they got the wins they needed to. And I think that's, to your point, Revenge, that like you can't drop the games that you need to win, because then this happens and you get eliminated halfway through day 6. You're not even in the competition, like because you can't beat the teams you need to beat. And like I think a lot of teams in the past from North America did that when they needed to, even though they might not have qualified. Like they at least beat the teams that they should have beaten. And like CLG went 7-3 in their fucking groups and defined the meta that year in 2016. Like they played the range supports. Everyone had to adapt to range supports. They made finals. Like there's no world which this C9 performance or even like level of play relative to their peers would be considered one of the, in my opinion, one of the best performances, or even necessarily one to feel too proud of. I think, if you want to huff some copium, I can agree that like the fact that they could go toe to toe with those teams and beat them in a best of one, and when they're playing well, they can do it. But like
copium,
yeah, I'm down to serve some up for people. Like I think C9 can come back, they can learn, they can improve, they can go to Worlds, and we've seen that when they're playing well, they can beat anyone there. But yeah.
Fudge? Any Immortals copiums in the chat? Any Immortals fans copiums in the chat for Worlds this year? Copiums?
Oh boy, how tough is your path? Because we were talking, you weren't on the show yet, but we were talking about C9 could just fuck off for most of summer and come back for playoffs. I don't know how tough of a road it is for Immortals, but you guys have a bit of a uphill battle, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even look at it like that. To me, honestly, I'm just going in like I'm going to play really well, and as a team, we're going to play really well, and we'll see how far our consistency will take us. Like, I wouldn't, I'll know like when we deserve Worlds, and if we deserve Worlds, I'll know it during the split. I'll just know that we're better than every other team, and it'll show, right? So it doesn't concern me. It doesn't like. I'm honestly just focused about our level of play.
Yeah.
Not the result.
Well, you
of the
made
tournament.
You made Wicked into a fan. He's in the chat, and he says Immortals will be the only NA team I support next split. No problem, because he was enjoying how much you were popping off on the Blaber stuff. So there you go. Joe, I'm sorry. It's been a tough night for the callers, I feel like. The callers have been coming in, and Mark and Revenge in particular have been batting them down. But Joe, any thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I just think that performing consistently and like actually competing against top teams will be more important to improving towards international success than just crushing minor regions and getting crushed by the major regions like we typically do.
Well, we'll see how things go. Joe, any shout-outs?
Shout out to you and Emily for having what I'm sure will be the most popular podcast on Spotify coming out soon.
Nice. So, well, thank you. Thank you for the shout-out. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, see you guys.
All right, so that is the show. We're a little over time right now because Guilhoto had to come in and defend himself against the wild accusations being made against him by Revenge. So we think that extends the show a bit past, but we thank him for coming on. And Revenge, thank you for coming on. Anything that you want to shout out or plug, Revenge? Where can people find you? You stream? I don't know.
Yeah, I stream on twitch.tv/revenge. Not as often as during my off seasons, but I'll be trying to do streams when I can, and just my Twitter. That's all. And just support Immortals. We'll do great to split.
Well, as always, you did a great job with the Mucho Texto on the show. Mark, what about you? You got anything you want to plug?
No. Thanks for doing the show, Travis. This is great.
I've got two.
Thanks, Travis.
I've got two things to plug. One, Rift Reaction again, coming out this Thursday. Normally on Wednesdays. Please check it out and give us feedback. I don't know. Emily and we've been working on it for a while, and definitely think there's a ton of things we can do better. And I'd love to hear from you all on how you'd like that show to go. But again, beautiful, sweet, 30 to 35 minutes. I'm not asking you to listen to another 2-hour show. The other thing I'm shouting out is 32, which is how old I'm going to be tomorrow.
Ooh.
I'm going to be ancient.
Happy birthday. I didn't know your birthday was tomorrow.
Mark just realizing my birthday is tomorrow on the show right now.
When would I have learned that it was tomorrow prior to this?
I don't know, in all of our years of friendship.
When's my birthday?
Oh.
I'm not gonna let you try to turn this into some sort of little competition, Mark, okay? This is not
Get me out.
something
Get me out. It's 9:30. All right.
where I would ever not know that June 29th.
Yeah, you pulled it up on
1991
Facebook. I can see it in your eyes.
are-
See the
is
reflection in
your
your
See the
birthday.
reflection.
Yeah, dude. Just pull
I
up
did
on.
I did not pull it up on Facebook. We're famous, Mark. I googled that shit. All right. Google has like a special little thing that comes up where it shows it right in the feed.
Your face got very bright when you started Googling that.
Yeah.
You don't have dark mode on Google?
No, I need to turn it on. I didn't know you can. You do dark mode on Google?
Yeah, I have dark mode Google.
This is the best birthday gift you've ever given me.
All
right.
No more blinding yourself.
The only birthday gift you've ever given me. Revenge, thank you for coming on. Thanks everybody for calling. This has been Hotline League episode 173.